Hello, hello, everybody. What's up?
Oh, we just started. I thought you were gonna have an intro, or you were gonna say,
I
"Hey."
did I not play the intro?
Oh, I mean, I thought you were gonna like have a where you talked intro. You said hello,
No.
and then here's some people, but we just all showed up. I wasn't ready. I wasn't looking.
I
Is that
explained
some
to you
new,
how this.
new intro music?
Yeah, I'm just playing with it. How'd y'all like it so far?
That's pretty good.
I like that one. That one was groovy.
The silky music, man. The outro at least is it just goes hard, man. I love it.
The outro is the same as the intro. And I really need to do an outro for this one, so it's going to say starting shortly if I use that. I don't know. But yeah, I'm doing a different intro for some of the stuff that we're going to be doing that's not strictly Silky Southern. So let me say, I don't know if Hiawatha is still here. It is. Look, this is a very interesting topping. Topping.
Interesting topping, like fried shrimp.
That's not a topping. That's the entree.
That's what would make it interesting because it is uncommon.
An uncommon topping. Yeah. Yes, it would be. Yeah. What would you put it on top of?
So you know how they put people argue all the time like is pineapples on pizza good or bad?
Yeah.
What other toppings kind of fit that?
Like, not shrimp.
Could you get you okay? What if it was like cocktail sauce as the pizza base instead of marinara?
That sounds terrible.
I'd try it. I'd try it if it was cocktail sauce based, but that's it. Daniel Berry, what's up? What's up? Samantha Springman, hello. Yeah, I chose Brain. Wait. I'm forgetting people. Sorry, I'm getting sidetracked. Hello, Buckeye. Yeah, I changed that intro music. You Like Mine. It's by the same group. It's the same band that plays the one that I use. So I do. I like their style a whole lot.
It's just at the Hawaiian pizza, ham, green pepper, and pineapple. Someone knows how to party.
Yeah. Whoop whoop. Yeah, so y'all few here who are here tonight and whoever joins, I do have to tell you, like I'm not stopping Silky Southern. I just don't know what I'm doing with this channel, So the three of us have decided to do a podcast, and so I need we don't have. Like, we've got to figure out a name, a focus, stuff like that. And so if you can think, like you know us a little bit now. Bungler has been on a few times. And if you can think of something as the show goes on, you tell us what we would be good at, what we should be called, that kind of stuff. I mean, we would love to take suggestions because we're kind of at a loss here. Hello, Pam Frenchman. How you doing? So yeah, we have a lot of different stuff, but I came across this video and I sent it to them last week sometime, or I don't know, when we were on here last. I sent it to them that day, and I just tell you, there is a lot of weird stuff, and I love the weird. I love the conspiracies. I'll think about it. Okay, Hiawatha says something about current events for sure. Yeah. Well, we're going to talk kind of, this is current. It's very interesting. I don't know. All of a sudden, I mean, raise your hand. Well, no, until I ask the question. Like,
you didn't say if, you just said do it.
Well,
I'm like, okay.
But I took a breath. I said, raise your hand.
It's the wrong time to take a breath. You got spacing is incorrect there.
Okay. Okay. Raise your hand if you feel like world events are amping up. Like, people have said in the last, I don't know, ever since I've been alive, the end of the world is coming. Does it seem like there's more urgency to you, or, I've had a lot of people say that to me recently. What do y'all think? Raise your hand if you think it does.
I reckon.
Yeah, me too. There's something that it feels different. And I'll tell you what, Jamboree came to me the other night. I got off work and I was sitting here and she said, I'm really, really worried. Well, with her, it could be that her socks, don't match her shirt, So I didn't take it seriously, but she's like, I really feel like, I'm really scared. I really feel like we're really in the end times now. Like, the world. And I was like, I have to say, it feels like there's been a shift. How do you feel about it, one of y'all?
That's a tough one to call. I mean,
it really is.
I've got a buddy who, is like, there are things that he points at. He's not crazy or anything either. But like two things. First of all, everyone has been saying, okay, actually, I'm going to complain for a second. I think every,
I'm shocked to my very core.
Generation of people since the day Jesus left the earth has said, this is it. These are the end times. And, especially in the last couple 100 years, dude, every generation is like, he's going to come and wipe out all the evil and take us back to heaven. The world's gonna end. You can tell. You can see it. The world's ending. Look how bad things is getting. It's gonna end soon. And then there's cults that are like, don't worry. I think that the problem that's so irritating to me about this is that everyone wants to just wipe their hands of how terrible things have gotten because don't worry. It's all gonna burn or whatever. It's all gonna go. And it's crazy to me. So I don't care if it is ending or not. It's like, what I can't do. If the world is ending, then I don't have anything to do with it. There's nothing I can do to change it. But if it isn't, I have a lot of responsibility, a lot of things I do need to do. So
yeah,
that's what I think.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, I kind of feel the same way. I've heard that all my life, and also everyone I know has heard that. Even my grandma, she tells me that. She used to hear that all the time, but she also points out these stories and revelations. I guess how they're supposed to align with things happening in the world today, and sometimes she has a valid point for some of these things that but at the same time, as far as that, like the timing is, I don't know, the timing is kind of, I don't know. God's timing, right, is kind of who knows, it could be another 1,000 years before all these things are fulfilled.
What's interesting too, by the way, is that if unless we've traveled in time, unless tomorrow is a day that hasn't happened before, then every second that passes is the last second. It's the end times all the time because
true.
So who cares?
And it kind of, I'm bringing this, I kind of wondered how you felt because, we're talking about the presidents and some things that people may or may not know. Some of these things I did know, I've heard before, and some of them I didn't, but it brings us right back up to current days, to the election, to some, you have to ask questions. Because I'm just telling you, there's a lot of stuff. I'm like, when you put it all in perspective, it's like, where are we going? And it's kind of scary, I'm gonna, oh my goodness. I lost, oh, wait. No, I lost one of my, hold on just a second. I lost one of my links. The first one I was going to start because this is the oldest one. And it's about, I think this was like in, sorry. Hold on, we're going to have to watch a commercial for a second. Just for a second. All right. But
for only $12.99 a month, you too can be an owner of YouTube Premium.
But this starts like, I want to tell you it's in 2013 or something like that. So, you know.
Hello, Mythical. Hello, Hiawatha. Hello, Buckeye.
Yes.
And hello, Pam, Frenchman, and anyone else I didn't say hello to.
All right. Let's go.
Workflow on Monday.com.
You build your own workflow? Why?
On the School Watch tonight, the story of a 7th grader from Salinas who claims to have made a major discovery about President Obama. She and her grandfather say that President Obama is related to all but one U.S. president. We get more tonight from Action News reporter Felix Cortez, who's live in our Salinas newsroom.
Well, Dan, the youngster spent the summer, really all summer, tracing the family tree of our presidents. Her conclusion that all the presidents, with the exception of one, share the same grandfather.
Well, first we start off with George Washington at the top.
This is
And then
crazy,
it goes to
by the
John
way.
Adams.
Yeah, hold on.
11-year-old Bridgeanne Davigno says she's made a
Hold, yeah.
So
Yeah,
I
go ahead.
haven't seen this video at all, but why she is struggling to speak clearly. She's so young that English is still like, she's still developing, and she's like, "Hey, why is everyone related on this chart?" Like, again, I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, I haven't seen this. I don't know what the point is. But it's just like weird that she's the one that pointed it out. I just feel like someone maybe more qualified would have seen it at some point. But
Well, yeah, you would think, but I think maybe somebody does know. See, this is where we're going to go into the territory, in a lot of things. But she brings it out. I think people did know. I think they've known for hundreds of years. Now, it's not like their grandfather, like their parents' dad. It's on back, but you're going to see a whole lot. When we watch the second video, which, by the way, oh my gosh, it has some crazy stuff in it. I know. With y'all's brains, you're going to want to talk about it. I don't know if you watched that one or not, but go ahead and yeah, feel free to stop me anytime you want to say something.
first of its kind discovery that President Obama and all the presidents before him, with the exception of one, are related and descendants of a former king of England.
No, they are all cousins, and they're grandsons of John Lackland.
Davigno says she spent countless hours on the internet over the summer researching the lineage of our presidents, a project that started with her trying to trace her own family tree.
But I'm the first historian to do all the presidents. I'm very glad I got this done, and I think it will turn out to be a success.
The Monte Vista Christian 7th grader has written President Obama to tell him the presidents before him are his cousins. She hopes to present this family tree chart personally to the president. But Bridgeanne has her skeptics, including
and then
this
she was
reporter.
never seen again. She mysteriously disappeared on this school field trip.
You know what's scary? I don't know. Somebody should look up her name. Somebody should Google her and see what she's doing now. Because this was back when Obama. So we've got Trump after, and then Biden. So we're talking about a few years, and she was 11 then. So she's an adult now. I wonder. Yeah, Bridgeanne, where are you at? I'd like to know.
Wait, what's her name?
Bridgeanne? Let me see.
Supporter
Hold on.
and firm believer that Obama.
Hold on. Let me go back to the very beginning.
U.S. president. We get more tonight from Action News reporter Felix Cortez, who's live in our Salinas newsroom.
Well, Dan, the youngster spent the summer, really all summer, tracing the family tree of our presidents. Her conclusion...
what a summer vacation, by the way.
I know. Where
7th
is her
grader from
name?
Salinas who claims to have made a major discovery. 7th grader from Salinas.
No, it just said the place. They never gave her the name.
Yeah, Bridgeanne is what they're saying.
Personally to the president. But Bridgeanne has her skeptics, including this reporter. Her biggest supporter and firm believer that Obama is a descendant of a former king of England is no doubt her mother.
If you have a child and they have a child,
Okay, so there we go. That's how you spell it. Bridgeanne.
I just found it.
Okay, all right.
Have a child, and
did you find her?
No, 1 second.
Okay.
They have a child, and they have a child.
Like names change.
All she's saying is this guy is the great, 25th, 27th, depending on what line it is. He created all this family. So do I believe it? Yes. It's hard, but it's true.
Well, Mom said it. Hard to believe, but you got to give the little girl an A+.
Yeah. What a summer vacation. But the point being is, okay, so yeah, we're talking about generations back, but you see how she's got it. I think it's very interesting that she circled it around. So, okay, odds. All right. You have King John in Europe, and then you have all of us. We come from, well, not me. I've never been president, clearly. But, you have people moving over here to become U.S. presidents, and their family's been here for generations. What are the odds that they're all descended, except for one, from King John? Is that just coincidence? Can it be that coincidental?
I mean, it can be, but I'm not so concerned about like the conspiratorial aspect of it as I am the cultural implications of it. You know what I mean? Like I'm not. So my dad. I hung out with my dad the other day, and he's a reasonable fella. He's grown up. The last 20, 30 years, he's been, just working away, a normal citizen. He votes and all of this. And he looks at me and he says, the world is run by a hidden cabal of nothing that you see is real. And I'm like, I just look at him. I'm like, I have not met a single group of, I don't think I've met even one person who I would deem smart enough to be able to orchestrate world events. Much less a group who could do so and not, have so much infighting that they get exposed. I think the hardest time that I have believing in that whole theory is that if you've ever worked with more than 4 people, no matter what is said in the group, secret or not, somebody goes and starts yapping about it. So I don't think that for hundreds of years, people have been secretly selecting the next heir to the throne, across different cultures and across different nations and all that. I think that's crazy. But
what if they are?
Okay, yeah. And what if the moon is actually made of cheese? My goodness, it would solve world hunger for at least a month. I think so. There's it's not a theory. It's basically a solution to understanding if conspiracy theories are likely or not. And basically, the more people that would have to be involved, the less likely it is to be true. Because, I don't know. Maybe you have met other people. Maybe you've met people who are more competent. But I don't think human beings possess the capability to work so fluidly and effortlessly and keep everything a secret and not leak anything and not fight and not throw each other under the bus and yada, 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 yada. No group in history has done it. The most powerful empires in the world have crumbled because of that exact same concept.
But, and I like what Hiawatha said. Yeah, I don't know if you know anything. I've studied this for years. I believe they do the selection at Bilderberg meetings. Go down that rabbit hole.
Is that next to Bilderberg Workshop? Sorry.
No, but it really is. And it's very, it's on the news. You can see when they do it once a year, they'll say, it's the Bilderberg, he's at the Bilderberg. They are world leaders. They are, and not just leaders. They are, it's not like, it's not like the union where everybody, it's not like that. It's like the people with money and influence and power are part of this group, and they meet once a year. So, I'm just saying, I know when you haven't looked at a lot of stuff, it's very easy. No, I'm just saying, it's very easy to say, oh, this could never happen. This is a coincidence. I'm just saying.
I think the core to sanity and also the core to finding the truth is to be unbelievably skeptical about everything that you hear, but especially the more preposterous, you need to look at it with the utmost scrutiny, because when you do, and then you do find concrete evidence that connects everything, then you have a story, then you have something you can expand upon, you know, and that's why I'm interested by this discovery of sorts, you know, that all the presidents are related, because it's traceable and it's not fabricated. Right. And, you know, it has very serious implications. You know, what conspiracy notwithstanding, you know what I mean? Like, you can throw that whole thing out the window and it still has a lot of really, anyway,
okay,
scary implications.
So, Colton, how do you feel about this? Like, what do you think? Coincidence, or, I mean, is it coincidental that all these presidents are related? I don't know.
Well, that is, I mean, see that they're probably related, right? But the odds that they're like closely related, I mean, well, all right, like King John, you were talking about King John, like his lineage is like really complex, you know, and he had like multiple descendants over generations and generations that, you know, like branch out into various parts of the family tree. And I don't know. I mean, there's a chance, right? But we need some more evidence at this point.
Okay. I mean, we haven't gotten to curses yet, but okay, so they're talking about all presidents are Masons or Skull and Bones. Are y'all familiar with Skull and Bones?
I'm not familiar with Skull and Bones. That sounds like pirate stuff to me.
No, that is.
Are we dealing with pirates now?
Well, yes, they're stealing our money, so I don't think there's much difference. They
buff up on my pirate slang.
No,
matey.
Skull and Bones is a secret society at is it Yale? Which one is it, y'all? In the comments, I know y'all.
Now I know you're lying already. If it was a secret society, then you know I would know about it. But I do, so it's just a society now.
Because like
it's just a regular society.
No, because the Freemasons, they're a secret society. We know they exist. That's about it. But yeah, most of the presidents have been one or the other, certainly.
Freemasons haven't been a secret society ever since Nick Cage had that movie about the Declaration of Independence. You guys remember that cultural phenomenon? What was it called? I think it was just stealing the Declaration of Independence.
Yeah, but I mean, Freemasons, as far as there's been a lot of whistleblowers in the last few years, but yeah, as far as what they do, what they believe, what it goes on in their ceremonies, it's all been secret for hundreds and hundreds of years. Samantha, you don't have to keep quiet. Don't. Yes, Yale. Okay, yes, it is from Yale. Absolutely, George Bush was Skull and Bones. Yeah,
I have to look into that. It's interesting.
National Treasure.
Yes, National
is
Treasure.
the name of the movie that Nicolas Cage was in. Sorry, no one cares. I do.
Yes.
It was a great movie.
Well, okay, so anyway, that's not really, I mean, I've studied all these things for a long time, so I do know, you know, about them, but I would highly suggest that y'all look into Bilderbergs and to, especially in Skull and Bones. That is, okay, so I'm going to go to a different video right now. This one has, and I know we'll have to stop this a lot because there is so much stuff. It starts on the presidents and then it goes into some other stuff. And then before we leave, we are also going to go to the Native American curse on the presidents. And I think in a way, I think it has hit our current president. Are you Are you sighing on me? Was that a sigh?
So I had a few things to say. One, Melanie Lynn was in the Yellow Jackets. I don't know if you've heard of them. That's a real secret society because I had never heard of them. Yeah, she was
7 days.
Hold on,
secret
just thinking
society
out
she made in 3rd grade. Lasted for 7 days. It
Hold
was.
on.
It must have had really
let me highlight
similarly.
that.
Yeah, must have had very similarly aligned goals to accomplish all of them in 7 days. So I'm really impressed, Melanie. That's impressive. Everyone, round of applause for Melanie Lynn. That's
The Yellow
amazing.
Jackets.
CIA is going to be looking for you for the director. This woman gets things done. Just look at this. The other thing is that Bridgeanne French is apparently alive.
What's she up to
Maybe.
these days?
Huh?
What's she up to these days?
So I found her Instagram account. The last time she posted was May 16th of last year. Before that, she was posting a couple of times a year. So that's a little concerning.
She's
But
still
another thing-
exposing.
Yeah, so she had. So what's interesting is that she has 2 links on her Instagram page. One of them was weareallrelated.com, which is no longer it doesn't exist anymore. And then she had another one for some contest, but that one also doesn't exist. But she has a so I don't know. I mean, it's probably nothing, but she hasn't posted in like a year and a half. After having
Maybe
posted
she
pretty
changed
consistently.
her name. Like maybe she got married and changed her name and account. You wouldn't think so, but maybe.
No,
Maybe
I mean,
that's
because she's got years of posts. I can just scroll down.
Oh, okay.
I mean, she's been doing this forever, so it's weird that just all of a sudden she kind of stopped posting. But I mean, hey, whatever. The weareallrelated.com doesn't exist anymore. Apparently it's owned, so that's the thing that's concerning. It is a website that doesn't exist, but it is an owned domain. I think so. Make of that what you will. And Bridgeanne, I hope you are not dead, because that would be very sad. You did a good thing, and you're pretty. So be alive, please. Anyway.
Yeah. Okay. Samantha says, when figuring out the bloodlines being related, one needs to realize the time involved here. How many hundreds of years, then figure the chances of coincidence. Yeah, I do agree. Plus, people, getting married and I'm just saying, I haven't traced my roots because I get kind of stuck when it gets over there in Croatia and on my mom's side. But I feel relatively certain I am not a descendant of King John. So therefore, my chances of becoming president, very slim.
Is that how it feels? I would like a comprehensive list of all the presidents that aren't related. That much I would like.
There is one, Martin Van Buren. You're going to see that in the next video.
He's a president?
Martin Van, well, yeah, he was a little bit older than you. It was a while back.
He was the 8th. He was after George Washington, but before Lincoln, so no one cares. I got it.
Okay, but yeah, Martin Van Buren was not related. But we're gonna watch, and now this video that we're gonna watch is 13 years old. Okay, I don't know how it came up on my, browse list, because I wasn't on my Silky Southern account. I was on my private account, and I'm like, this is odd. But I'm going to tell you something. There are so many things to think about. And again, let me change this.
This is the one I do believe I watched. The tone, I'm going to just go ahead and warn or say the overall tone of this video is annoyingly conspiratorial, but I extracted a lot of the information out of it, and it's still very interesting.
Yes. And it's interesting about the presidents, but the rest of it was also something I felt like was worth talking about.
What year? 13 years ago. What was that, 2011? This has definitely got 2011 vibes all over it, dude. The guy in it and everything. It's like, he looks like Chris Angel, who was also at 2011.
I don't think that the guy, no, but the guy that's doing this, I mean, I don't think you see his face. I think he's just
There's a fellow who gets interviewed who like sounds exactly the same.
Well, maybe.
But what's weird is that it's set up like a documentary and he has like camera pointing at him with his name and all that. But it's really jarring when you see him on camera and it's just the same voice that you've been hearing the whole video. And then when it cuts away from him and it's the same voice you've been hearing on the whole video, it's like, did he interview himself? Or like, is this like a homegrown production? I'm also curious, did this come from like a show, like a documentary that was like, I just have more questions than I have answers, honestly.
I don't know. I really don't know. But it's only 7 minutes. Now, I'm sure it's going to take us with stopping it, which I'm sure we will. It's going to take a while, but the points in here are worth taking note of because I had to stop and think, So there you go. But let's start with the
thinking sound. Thinking sound.
Exactly.
Many of the United States presidents have blood relations with each other. The Bush lineage has blood ties to a great number of former presidents. George Washington, Millard Fillmore, Franklin Pierce, Abraham Lincoln, Ulysses Grant, Rutherford Hayes, James Garfield, Grover Cleveland, Teddy Roosevelt, William Taft, Calvin Coolidge, Herbert Hoover, Franklin Roosevelt, Richard Nixon, and Gerald Ford.
Okay, did you hear that? George Bush is related to all of these people.
George Washington, Franklin Pierce, Grover Cleveland, Teddy Roosevelt, Calvin Coolidge, Richard Nixon, Gerald Ford, William Taft, Millard Fillmore, Abraham Lincoln, Rutherford B. Hayes, Andrew Garfield, and Herbert Hoover. Now, real quick, Buckeye Clay fan asked what king they were supposed to be related to. Was it one with the hemophilia line? Which,
No. Was it King John II?
Okay, let me make a note of that real quick. Colton mentioned that King John's heritage was complicated. Would you like to expand on that? Is there like hemophilia involved with that whole thing?
I am not super sure about that. What I found about the U.S. presidents being descendants of King John is, see, this is biased, but it says it's unlikely. This is just one angle. It says King John's lineage is complex with many descendants over the centuries due to multiple generations of various branches of the family tree. While some prominent American families may have distant connections to European family, the idea that all U.S. presidents are descendants of King John is unlikely. Well, it says the U.S. presidents come from diverse backgrounds, and while some may have distant connections to European nobility, these connections are not typically concentrated in a single lineage, such as that of King John.
Well, apparently they did not talk to Bridge Ann because she's got it all in writing, and I saw it. I saw all of that. Hers goes back to the Plantagenets, which I watched a whole hours and hours long documentary. I got stuck in it, like, I don't know, learning English history. But the Plantagenets are really like the line that was like one of the most important. But this has been so long ago. But I saw even on her, she had gone back that far. So I think they need to talk to Bridget. Bridge Ann. Go ahead, Colton.
They may have already talked to her, which is why she isn't posting on Instagram anymore.
I don't know. Are you talking about the Habsburg bloodline? And were the Habsburgs, did they have hemophilia? The only one that I know that I can remember that had hemophilia was the Russian, the Tsar Nicholas, his son, Alexei, had hemophilia.
Megxit? No, wait, what was it? Megxit? Wait, I'm thinking of something. Wait, what the heck am I thinking about?
I don't know. Hiawatha says many professors and scholars checked Bridge Ann's work. She's correct.
Well, yeah.
I know the Habsburgs had that ridiculous chin. You know, they when they painted pictures of like Charles II and stuff, they tried to make it not as prominent, but it's still like they had like foot-long chins. It was crazy. That's from all the interbreeding, you know. They kept it all in the family back then. So I'm just saying.
And with every generation, you're going to gain another inch on your chin.
But you'll be king, so it's okay.
This was the determining feature of how Britain won the war. They strapped a blade to the end of their chin, and no combatant could get within arm's length of them. This is what led to their domination of Eastern... Anyway, sorry.
Okay. You got anything else, Colton, or do you want me to go ahead and play this?
No, that's all I got on King John.
Okay.
Michael Tessarion points out in his work that Bush is closely related to every European monarch on and
Oh. Sorry. I do that a lot, don't I? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, let me back it up for just a hair. Just a fuzz.
closely related to every European monarch on and off the throne, and has kinship with every member of Britain's royal family. Bush's family tree can be documented as far back as the early 15th century. He has a direct descent from Henry III and from Henry VIII's sister Mary Tudor. He is also descended from Charles II of England. And we also find that George W. Bush is a direct descendant of Godfrey de Bouillon. Godfrey was the first king of Jerusalem after he recaptured it from the Saracens, which was the name for the Islamic faith during the Middle Ages. It is interesting to note that the current occupation of the United States in the Middle East was re-established by the same family, George Bush Sr. in 1991, and again by George Bush Jr. in 2003. George Bush Jr. is then found to be a cousin to both opposing candidates of his 2 terms in office, Al Gore and John Kerry.
So basically, no matter who was elected in those elections, they would still have been in the same bloodline. Did you catch that? So whether Kerry won or whether Gore won, they all cousins. You all right?
Yeah.
Democratic President Barack.
What?
I was gonna say, which, I mean, it's suspicious, but I have a lot of family members that I definitely don't relate to in a personal sense, right? So,
Well, no, but it's not about whether you're like somebody or not. I'm not like most of my family, but it's about bloodline. It doesn't matter what you think. It's just about bloodline.
They have plenty of reasons. They have plenty of reasons to stay quiet, even if they know too much or disagree.
Yeah.
You mean? Oh, well, yeah, certainly.
Yeah, like self-preservation, the systemic loyalty, and the controlled information flow, or owning the media and high stakes and surveillance.
Yeah, I mean that's the one kind of that is the one thing that kind of like I don't want to launch into a philosophical rant, but say that in order to control a large group of people, like a nation, like America, or like even world relations. It would stand to reason that everyone needs to be like reasonably on the same page, that you would need to essentially work as a type of, you could use the word family, essentially just like just one body, and that I think that a lot of those things, which I was going to list those, all those things you said, I should have written it down. Do you have a list of those things? Yeah.
Yeah, I can remember some of them.
Can you say them again real quick?
There's a systemic loyalty.
Yeah.
There's incentives for being silenced. Historically, people from like elite backgrounds who try to whistleblow, I don't know, they're usually killed or called crazy. But also, like, if they whistleblow, then they get cut out of all the influential circles. And wait, all right. So I said also they control the media. Like systemic loyalty, like from their, to their kids and their, relatives like before them. Self-preservation.
That's another good point.
Surveillance. Influence. I don't know. I mean, there's
those are all
the reasons outweigh most of the time. Usually outweigh, like what they would gain from, trying to expose them.
Yeah, and that's something that's definitely like I said, when it comes to the conspiratorial aspect of things, I think that it's really dangerous to be like overwhelmingly so or unnaturally so. But even with this relatively short list, all things considered, of benefits of potential benefits to this kind of behavior, you can clearly see how you would be able to run a country or at least maintain control of a group. That's something that I did note as I was making my notes here, is that even from like an outward, like even from like a person's perspective who like doesn't think the government hates them or wants to control them or something like that, it's very easy to see how a group of people like this, even subconsciously, like even not on purpose, could be essentially like subconsciously like almost one being, like a family, like almost like a living organism in a way, where their ideals kind of begin to spread throughout, like even though we ideally set up the government so that it has checks and balances and all this, if this overarching like sphere of influence and way of thinking begins to find its way into every branch or every check and or balance system, then you could see how very quickly those things would be unchecked and also unbalanced. Especially with some certain policies or whatever. I'm not going to get into detail, but I just find it interesting. I just find that whole thing interesting. When it comes to the whole idea of this, that is the underlying concept that worries me, I think. But it also gives me a little bit of hope, but we can talk about that when we get to it later. Yeah, sorry.
Let me just say this right now. I'm looking at the chat. Melanie is talking about Cain. When Cain was banished, he actually went into the land of Nod. So that tells us that there were other people here besides Adam and Eve. So that is a great, like, I get it. And I've had this discussion with a lot of people. Where did these people come from? That is a whole nother topic. But yeah, there were dwellers in the land of Nod, and that is where he went and lived the rest of his life.
And this is a huge digression from the topic at hand, but I just like to mention that I talked to somebody recently who I shared this information with, and they said, yeah, but we don't know how long Adam and Eve had been alive. They could have given birth to thousands of babies. And, there's just so many things wrong with that, line of belief. But I just thought it's important. Some people still will take that and be like, yeah, no, well, they were 1,000 years old. We don't know how. And they had so many children that they had to send them to different places of the earth. It's just crazy. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. There's some biblical stuff, but that's a whole nother topic. Y'all want to talk about that? Y'all want to do a Bible study in Genesis? Yeah. We can do that because it is really, really crazy. If you really look at it. Okay, but now, are we ready to look at this again or no?
Yep.
Okay. All right, back to the presidents.
Obama also has blood ties with George W. Bush, as well as Gerald Ford, Lyndon Johnson, Harry Truman, James Madison, and the British.
I'm sorry.
It's okay. You're new to this. This is like you'll.
The thing of it is I'm used to it just being me, and so I know exactly what I'm doing, but I'm listening to y'all and I get distracted.
Democratic President Barack Obama also has blood ties with George W. Bush, as well as Gerald Ford, Lyndon Johnson, Harry Truman, James Madison, and the British Prime Minister Sir Winston Churchill. On the opposing side of the 2008 presidential ballot, John McCain is descended from Robert the Bruce, King William I of Scotland, and also Godfrey the Bullion.
Interesting to note, by the way, this was made in 2011, so the election was right around the corner. So that's why John McCain was mentioned. And also interesting to note that is multiple people related to Godfrey, the Bullion Cube.
The Bullion. Bullion
you know, I guess, even just from like a, I don't know, like a school of thought kind of deal, multiple people being related to the first person who attacked Jerusalem and all this, became the king and all that, I just think that's an interesting thing. You could probably make some observations from that. But anyway.
Yeah.
And probably one of the most interesting facets of the bloodline relations is the fact that the whole British royal family has descent.
This is the same guy. The only difference is that he's further away from the microphone in this shot.
That looks like the dude from Breaking Benjamin, and his name is Benjamin. Weird.
Was the dude from Breaking Benjamin named Benjamin and also a conspiracy theorist.com?
Well,
I don't know.
This is Stuart.
This is a very early 2000s look, by the way. Look at him.
You had that look. I remember when you had that look. So
I think we all remember that. Anyway, pull it back a few seconds, listen to him talking to the mic, and then listen to the swap. It makes me a little wary of this whole video because it's like, again, it's set out to look like a documentary, but it could just be the one guy who's like, and now our witness report. Me, I have more things to say. All right, take it away, me. I had a lot of good things to say back there, and it makes me wonder about,
But we already know that they're related because of Bridjan. So, okay, he's just going. And most of these are, more recent enough that it should be easy to trace their bloodline. Okay.
And probably one of the most interesting facets of the bloodline relations is the fact that the whole British royal family has descent from the Muslim prophet Muhammad through the Arab kings of Seville. This bloodline was passed through the kings of Portugal, Castile, and eventually down to King Edward IV. And this is a very, very different story from what you hear the media pumping out every day, being this idea of lineal superiority. It's completely debunked according to the foremost authority of aristocratic lineage, Burke's peerage. And this just goes to show that there's the true story, and then there's the manufactured illusion, the front that's given to the public.
I like that. I like that concept. I'm not British, so I don't know the weight of lineal superiority. I don't know. I guess it's probably a big deal because even in an age where kings and queens are wholeheartedly unnecessary, it's still touted as a big deal. But I guess it's just the idea that if that, at least like facadal monarchist type of society is still been, it's still being carried out or whatever, and it all stemmed from essentially a lie. I just find that kind of fascinating, that even if it doesn't have any real implications, that it's pretty still messed up, Just think of all the knights and soldiers and everyone who died for the queen, they died for their kingdom, and it was all just didn't really matter who it was. It just happened to be this family, What if there's a Hatfield and McCoy type, infight between two groups at some point, and they're just and your winner is King, whatever the first guy was that he said.
Well, it kind of, look, if you ever really, it's slow moving. If you ever really want to know about a lot of this stuff, and it's horrifying. The family history of the Plantagenets is horrifying. There's a lot on YouTube. Just look up documentary Plantagenet, and they will tell you for hundreds of years, and you're like, what the crap? What is wrong with these people? But yeah. Hello, warning, Lady Nina. Okay, so let me go back. All right. Because from here on out, I think is where it gets more into, I never thought about that.
These blood ties go on and are documented thoroughly through literature such as Burke's Peerage and other comparable books. The point of all of this is that we find not just the same people, but the same intent within the people who have held high positions of monarchy, dynasty, aristocracy, and democracy. In the
Okay, what he said there, it's not just the same people, but it's the same intent. Okay, kind of like you were saying, Colton, about systemic, how did you put that? Systemic what?
Systemic loyalty.
Loyalty and conformity.
Okay, yeah. So that's exactly what he's saying. It's not just that they're blood related, they all have the same intent. Okay.
past and present, and they are all related by a physical and symbolic link. This bloodline carries the symbol of our illness.
Okay. I had to read this a couple of times. To develop a more or less accurate self-image is simply to gain a comprehensive awareness of those facets of yourself which you didn't know existed. And these facets are easily spotted because they show up as your symptoms. Like, I literally read that about 3 times, and I'm like, okay. But then what comes next is, man, I really had to think about this. Okay. Is it playing? Okay.
The symptoms of our psychospiritual illness are the wars, terrorist attacks, artificial or man-made disasters, and leader figures. As long as the people remain oblivious to their inner drives and inner nature, they will always fail to recognize why these events take place and why these figures rise to such powerful positions. The reason why we have failed for thousands of years to conquer these archetypal rulers permanently is because for thousands of years we have been fighting the symptoms of an illness and not the root cause. For every corrupt government that falls at the hands of a revolutionary, oppressed people, 2 more will rise in its place every time, because the root cause of a corrupt government does not exist in the individual leading that government. It exists within the psyche of every individual, because an unaware host to a deadly parasite will do anything to avoid accepting his own incapacity for freedom.
Do you think this is true? Carl Jung says, people will do anything, no matter how absurd, in order to avoid facing their own soul.
Yeah, I looked into that quote a little bit too, and when Carl Jung said soul, he meant their inner reality. Basically saying that people will do anything, no matter how absurd, in order to avoid like introspection or self-awareness. Thinking about things like that, which is a concept very, very, very difficult for me to understand or even relate to, because I've never been that way at all.
Me either. See, this was the thing, and I think here's what I think. I think that is true. It's not true of me, and as this goes on, it gets weirder and weirder, which kind of explains me, I guess, to people. But what do you think, Colton? Do you think it's true?
Well, what was the question?
People will do anything, no matter how absurd, in order to avoid facing their own soul.
Oh yeah, I don't believe that. I mean, people do it all the time. I mean, people like lie to themselves so much that they believe their own lies. You know what I mean? And they can't, and they stand on those beliefs, till they die, and they end up actually believing them by the end.
That is true. That's a true thing.
I mean, I it's been my observation that
it's it's hard. Like, self-reflection is a hard thing to do, because you're often met with like big problems, and most people don't exactly know how to handle those problems, and it's just, to them, it's just a source of stress, like I don't know.
I mean, I think you're 100% right about people. It's just not, and I agree with you, Bungler, because I know you, and I think you're the same way that I am, that is not true of me. I'm very introspective.
What Colton said is, not necessarily knowing how to parse through the details of your own inner workings or all of that, not really living through introspection, being a source of stress. I totally understand that. I see that a lot. I'll say that I see that more than because I don't know, maybe it's because I'm annoying, but my go-to feature is to poke people about things like that. It happens organically. No matter what conversation I find myself in, I end up talking or asking questions that force people to think about that kind of thing. And it rarely goes well from then on, But what's weird to me is that
I figure. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
I figure most people simply don't know the answer, never thought about it, and they don't like looking stupid.
That's very plausible, honestly.
Yeah.
Let's see here.
Buckeye says, I dare say most people are busy surviving and don't have time or energy to contemplate heavy inner stuff. Do you think, I mean, that is hard for me. Okay.
So
because I'm very busy, but.
I have, I don't know what you'd call it. Explosive ADHD. It doesn't matter what stage of life that I'm in. It is it's there's always a second voice in my head, basically, going and doing its own thing. So I guess if the question is if I were, the only people, is it likely that the only people who would wax poetically or think philosophically are people who have access to a week off, no children, big cup of coffee and a cigarette. I don't know, maybe, I guess. But to me, the source of stress has been not knowing the answers to those questions. To me, the source of stress was always not knowing myself well enough, because there were so many situations I got myself into where I wasn't prepared to face the reality of the situation, because I never knew to ask the question that was required to myself to be able to deal with the situation in front of me then. So, I think that it's strange to me that people will often hide from themselves or from reality. They'll delude themselves, they'll lie, because it causes more problems. It leaves you underprepared, and it doesn't help you or anybody around you to do it. But at least for a moment, it'll make you somewhat comfortable, I guess. But it's just, I don't know. I think at that level, at least, that self-examination is almost, I dare say most people are busy surviving and stuff like that. I get that. I understand that much at least, but there's still a lot more room, even on a surface level, to have time to ask yourself questions like that to me would be instinctual, would be natural, that I see people actively avoiding, and if people have too much time alone to ask these uncomfortable questions, a lot of them will just start using drugs, for example. Even if it's just marijuana or whatever, they'll do it so that part of their brain turns off for a little while, because it's uncomfortable, it's unsettling. A lot of people will distract themselves with meaningless hobbies that they don't even necessarily care about. I've met so many people who have this strange, always have to be moving type of behavior. It doesn't matter, until their head hits the pillow, they've got something going on. And that to me also seems really destructive, because, how do you allow yourself space to develop, if that's how you're.
But I agree with Buckeye. I think that even if they are thriving and it's not so much about survival. I mean, these days, most of us are surviving, but it hasn't always been like that. I think people do avoid self-reflection because I think they don't want to know. But see, I'm the same way. It's I don't feel like there's another voice in my head, but my brain is very divergent. And when I see, let's say I'm watching something on the news, whether it's a crime story or whatever, there's the other part of my brain that's over here calculating, kind of like the motherboard. It's, how do you feel? How would you feel in that situation? How would, and then when it comes back, the answer comes back something I don't like, then I realize I have a problem. This is something I don't like about myself. How can I change it?
Exactly. And
But
it's
most
crazy to
people
me
are not like that.
Well, it's strange that people would deny that people aren't like that at all, because I know, for example, that I know two things. I know that the Marvel franchise throughout the entire Infinity War saga, starting from the beginning with Hulk, the Incredible Hulk way back in the day, I know that was a multi-billion dollar era for Marvel, and it essentially shut out DC. And I know for a fact that every man in the world that watched those movies for a moment was like, but if I were Spider-Man, I would have been able, you know what I mean? That's how it is.
Yeah.
That's what you do when you're watching those movies, if I were Tony Stark, dude, I would have, that's how it is. For a brief moment, everyone takes on that, persona, they think about it. And that's all introspection is having a moment where you're what if this, or but I think
go ahead,
well,
Colton.
Well, I don't know. See, introspection is kind of a broad term because everyone introspects in some ways, I eat too much, sugar, I'm getting fat, or I'm spending too much money, I need to quit spending money, that's a form of introspection, but,
True.
Very shallow, but, I wouldn't say it's inherently built into people. I think it is, yeah, but it's almost like a part of the brain that that has to be exercised, and so to me now, when I read that says most people are too busy surviving, that doesn't make sense to me because of me, I guess I don't know, I think about it all the time, I think about stuff while I'm doing stuff all the time, I always have to be thinking about something, or I get bored, right? So I don't know if that's, I honestly think part of that might have been could have been the first time I ever did acid, when I was a teenager, and I got the reality of wow, dude, you're really a piece of shit, that kind of hit me when I was a teenager, and I don't know, I guess ever since then I've just thought about things maybe sometimes more than I should. Sometimes I feel like it drives me into a deeper hole, and maybe there's a balance, but
are you saying that it's, go ahead, sorry.
I'll finish off. I feel like it's inherently built in everyone, everyone has some introspection, but I think it's more about interest.
Will they do anything to avoid? Okay, yeah, we introspect on things I'm getting fluffy, things like that. I've got this bad habit, but how deep do we go in
on anything you care about, anything you find interesting? That's what you're thinking about. So if you don't find religion or politics interesting, it's because you don't find it relatable, or it really doesn't have any merit in your life, or there's no reason, it's, or the stories maybe don't feel real, they feels fictional, or I don't know.
I mean, yeah, I tend to agree though that people, when it comes to deep flaws that they don't want to admit to, even to themselves, that they will really do anything. And I think that's why a lot of people project, just like the narcissist projects stuff on other people. It's their own problem. It's their own flaw. But we tend to project, I think, when we don't want to face our own, the really bad, the deep stuff. That's just my opinion.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I believe that.
I kind of believe that too. I think that I think a lot of things actually, but yeah, sorry. Actually, I'm sorry I started talking. I didn't have anything useful to add there.
I do that all the time. Well, I feel like it's really important that people actually do think about these things, you know, and I kind of want you guys' opinion on it. Like, what do you think are wait, what is it? I just forgot what I was saying.
You wanted
So
your
sorry. I'm
you
so
wanted
sorry.
what, the chat's opinion on something.
Yeah.
Oh, I did have a question earlier. Do you think that higher level introspection is only caused by a mark of a time in somebody's life of like you see it a lot with like, you know, people in distress, you know, grieving people, recently divorced, drug addicts as well, and people who like have like a moment where like everything kind of hits them all at once. Do you think that like deeper introspection is almost like required to be brought out by some, maybe not trauma, but maybe a trauma themed event of sorts?
Oh, I think it's a catalyst a lot of times. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think it has to be, but it usually is.
Okay. Do you think then that people like often end up living their lives on autopilot for years and years until like they're kind of brought with some sort of harsh reality that causes them to need to reverse engineer everything?
Definitely. I actually meet more people on autopilot than I do people who really are introspective.
All
No,
right.
for sure. I feel
One
like
last
that's-
question then. Oh, what was that?
I feel like most people are on autopilot.
Okay. Well, one last question. This is for me personally. How do I deeply traumatize someone without without them hitting me in like a 3-minute conversation? I've been wondering about that one too, because I only say that, right, because like I said before, I talk to people all the time, and maybe it is like you said, a muscle that needs to be exercised in order to actually achieve that level of thought. But I hate small talk so much. It's pointless. It's boring. Neither of us care. Both of us want to be doing something else. Tell me what matters. Tell me something that matters to you. And I have a lot of things, you know, and it's like, yeah, like, I don't know. I guess conspiracy theories are a form of introspection. I guess, you know, wondering about the nature of life and like where do you go when you die is a form of introspection. I guess, you know, I don't know, man. I guess all of philosophy is that is inherently a form of introspection. But what amazes me is how many people who are even like, you know, about to go, like on their way out, like old, like, you know, old. I don't mean like, you know, I'm about to kill them, but like old people. They also don't have any sort of like they'll be just as on autopilot as, and it just I cannot comprehend it. You know, what amazes me is that, you know, with this you know, the information superhighway of information or whatever, you know, there's terrible stuff all the time. There's wars and there's disease and, you know, tensions and all of this. How could anyone possibly not be introspective to a degree where they at least know themselves, you know?
Well, okay. Two things. Let me say this to Hiawatha, who says I would never tell you how to hurt someone's feelings. Look, and I know what you're saying, Bungler. Like, you want to put them at a point of thinking. Quickly.
It's just like a small point of tension where they have like it's like a, you know, like a small balance beam to step up on and to peer above the fence or something. You know what I mean? That sounds like a Facebook post, but you know what I'm saying? Like, you know, I don't want to actually traumatize somebody. I just want to, you know, because I just end up talking or asking questions about things that I think are interesting that I can't comprehend someone not thinking are interesting. And I don't mean conspiracy theories. I don't mean any of that. I just mean like I go to them at their level. Like I get to know who they are and I ask them questions about them that I have immediately that they've never had about themselves in 20, 30,
Yeah.
40, 70 years. It blows my mind. I can't, it's hard to comprehend
But
sometimes.
you're just that type of person. You're a very unique human. Okay, you're very unique in that. And the second part of that, I wanted to say, Hiawatha says, even when my ex-husband was dying, he never admitted to being wrong about the abuse he did. And that's what I was going to say. When people are older, because remember, I worked in my career, I've worked with a lot of elderly people throughout the years. I think what happens is they get to a certain point where they're not introspective. Some people, very rarely, will try to change themselves. They'll realize they have messed up a lot of their life, being harmful to people or whatever. But I think they, at a certain age, they kind of give up. They're not about trying to make their last years better, mending fences. They're just like, they're old, and they're purposely not introspective because they already know enough to know all the damage, all the harm, or just all the things they didn't do, and they know they're not going to do it. So therefore, let's just go on autopilot until I die.
Well, I have a theory, and I don't mean to simplify things, but I almost feel like people are more prone to talking or just thinking about their trauma when they feel like they acted justly. Say there was like a shooting in a mall or something, and you were the guy that went and stopped the shooter, single-handedly. I feel like you'd be more inclined to think or talk about that traumatic day than if you were just a bystander who could have done something but you didn't. You know what I mean? And you remember that. And I wonder if people can't face the realities of their life, when it's not achievements, but like when it's failure or rejection. You think that's just like a more of a problem with being able to handle rejection or failures?
Yeah.
Now, back to, because I promise y'all who want to talk about curses to presidents, we're getting there. I want to finish this video. I know. And this video takes you somewhere different. Like, I thought it was just going to be about this. But this next part is very interesting. Okay. So, this was another study, I think.
We are so bereft of sanity in this world that those few who simply stop projecting onto others and begin facing their own demons are seen as neurotic. An article written in the 1950s states that studies showed that individuals who had been isolated from their familiar, social, and...
What was that?
Sorry, all those worms look like kind of macaroni.
Macaroni, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah, it's very cheesy color to choose. Very cheese sauce color to
Okay, like I am all up into what they're saying, and y'all guys
did it
are
not
saying macaroni. I
look,
saw worms.
Is that cheese melting? Yeah.
I saw worms. Wait.
I saw very excited macaroni and cheese. Happy.
Begin
happy
facing their own demons are seen as neurotic.
Curls now.
Yeah.
An article written in the 1950s states that studies showed that individuals who had been isolated from their familiar social and cultural environment became neurotic. This shows that when those individuals had no object to identify their darker emotions with, they began to see these things in themselves, that which they refused to recognize before, and were unaware of why they appeared and how to cope.
Okay.
That reminds me of jail. That makes me think of people in jail.
Pull that up so I can type down that quote right quick. Or just pull it back like a second or so.
All right.
And have it. Because I wanted to, I wanted to compare that to something else, but thank you. Go ahead. How does that remind you of jail?
It says that people that have been isolated from their familiar environment became neurotic. I don't know. I mean, you see it happen. People like go in solitary confinement. They go absolutely crazy, and then you see this process. They eventually get bored of banging their head on the wall, and I don't know, sometimes, not all the time. Sometimes they come out a different person, and you don't really know, like like what were they thinking about? But they confronted something because they changed.
Yeah. It doesn't happen that often, but it does happen occasionally. It certainly does.
What's isn't there like an amount of time you're allowed to be in solitary before it's like rumored that you go crazy? Is it like 30 days or something?
Well, I mean,
it's like, yeah, but there's. I mean,
I imagine this is like a tall tale. What is it called?
Well,
Folklore?
I mean,
no?
and some people can get a little crazy before then, and some people can go later. But yeah, I mean, they try not to let, which is why in a lot of jails they have at least a roommate. They're not in solitary, even if they're in solitary with one other person. But yeah, that's a whole can of worms, not macaroni. But but I thought that was interesting. If you pull people away, okay, let me go back because I want to look at it too. Studies showed that individuals who had been isolated from their familiar social and cultural environment became neurotic. This shows that when those individuals had no object to identify their darker emotions with, they began to see these things in themselves that which they refused to recognize before and were unaware of why they appeared and how to cope. I mean, to me that's crazy. Again, because I'm always introspecting, but basically, I'm thinking about what we watch on TV and stuff like that. It's, you know what I'm saying? It's like you can get in touch with your darker emotions. Let's say, is that why men are, is that why you guys love to watch movies where things blow up all the time? It's like, yeah, and you're not going to do that, like, for real. But
did you ever watch John Wick?
No, I really want to. I know I haven't, but I mean, I
there is something so cathartic, so empowering, something almost otherworldly about the situation. The situation he finds himself in, where, which I mean, I guess if you've never seen it, I don't want to spoil it, but something very, very sad happens, and it makes you, the viewer, very, very sad, and then he kills every single person who was ever related to anything involving that whole thing. And it's just like, wow. I've never, because every story you see, so many stories are about hopelessness or inability to rise against or anything like that. But in this case, the movie is about a man who had like, a man unleashed a force, against, all probable reality. And, I think, philosophically, it's a very interesting concept. And, if you've never seen it, then if you do, you would understand, I think, why some men maybe like watch action movies, because at least that part, that aspect of it is like,
Okay. Well, I have a very unfeminine side to me as well, but I haven't seen John Wick. Sounds like I would love the movie, but what I have seen that's just like that is Braveheart. Have you seen Braveheart?
It has been years. I can't remember the plot.
Okay, well, the plot is the same way. Such horrific things happen, and you are so angry, and you want so much vengeance, and yeah, like, there are times that, that's probably one of my favorite movies ever. But, yeah, so I mean, but we can identify, let's just say on a small level, okay, let's just say, and I have a great boss, but let's say I've had some really bad bosses, like terrible. let's say I'm every day with this boss that I can't stand, but I go home and I watch some kind of movie that's either things are blowing up or it's, somebody's breaking free of something. I can see where that would be cathartic, and, it's like, yeah, they pulled this over on somebody, or, you know what I'm saying? But
Yeah.
I think that we use our emotions, our TV, our, whatever it is that we're watching to do that same thing. But what they're saying is when you have no access to that, people have to look inside and they don't have anything outside to identify with, and so they become neurotic because the introspection is like, where's all this anger coming from? I don't even have, like, I'm in solitary. Where's all this anger coming from? You know.
Which I said this way earlier. I said that not knowing the answers to these questions, for me, where some people find that to be a point of stress, for me,
stressful to not know.
Yeah, it was. It caused me too much stress to ever be like, why do I feel this way? Why do I think like this? Why do I feel different from this group of people? Why do people behave this way? I would be completely different, or whatever. And they're like, it's just, oh, okay, I'll be right back. I gotta fix something. But you know what I'm saying? Like, and so that's what's like. I mean, I've never been in solitary. I think I would probably still go insane, but I don't think I would have so much, struggle as I feel like I've seen, at least a lot of stories. What is it called? Urban legends. What's the other name for it? I don't know. If being in solitary definitely makes you crazy. But it's weird to me that that's like a punishment when that should be like at least a default way of being in some way that you would face yourself. You know what I mean? It's weird that people that quote, let me see here. People will do anything, no matter how absurd, in order to avoid facing their own inner reality. I do not relate with that at all, but he was a psychologist. He was like, he knew what he was talking about. So,
I agree with him 100%. I'm just saying, not me, but that's, I don't know what made me the way I am. Maybe being an only child, I have a lot of space in my head where I just stay in my head. So, solitary probably wouldn't be that bad for me either. I'd just be living up in there.
What do people do when they don't have an incessant point of anxiety that causes them to think about things? Like, how do people have the ability to go home, sit down, and look at the wall, look at the TV turned off? Like, is it like, what happens if you, or is it like, or does everybody like subconsciously avoid ever having moments of silence? How does that work? I guess it's like, how does the normal brain work?
I don't know, because, I've gone on trips and I've been several hours into a trip before I've realized I didn't turn the radio on or I didn't turn a podcast. Like, I'm like, oh, I've been literally inside my head this whole time and I wasn't lonely, It's an interesting space up there. But yeah, I mean, but a lot of people can't. Like, they can't even get in the car for 5 minutes to go to the store without putting on the radio. They have to hear something all the time.
Well, that's me. That's also me. But I listen to philosophical stuff also, so I guess it kind of equals out.
What happens in your brain if you...
I think it's ADD. I just suck at doing one thing. Like, I like to multitask all the time.
What happens in your mind if you do sit in silence, if you don't have something going on? What does it feel like? What happens?
It's...
Sorry, I guess so that's one of those. That's a very classic example of the type of question I ask people that they what
Because it'd be awkward if anybody's around.
Yeah, I don't know. for me, it's not like a big deal. It's like the same thing as, the only difference is that I'll lose track of time. And if I have like something like a song playing or a podcast playing, I'll know when it's been an hour and a half because the podcast will end. I'm like, oh, okay, or whatever. Yeah. So
I have I've listened to a great many podcasts that I have no idea what they were saying because I was in my head the whole time. And that's how my ADD works. It's like it ping pongs. Like I sit in silence. Sometimes I come home from work and I sit in silence because my head is so busy. I mean, I don't know. I have conversations with people that I never am going to have. Sometimes I plan the conversation, but I have a lot of times to work through things. Like if I'm really angry at somebody and I don't really want to have a confrontation because I feel like in the end it won't be productive and will just hurt our relationship. I will have that conversation in my head with that person where I tell them exactly what I think. And then, I'm done. I'm done. It's like, okay, in my head that happened and now we're good.
Anytime that I talk to somebody or I get into a situation, because I mean, look, I'm not blind and I'm not like socially inept. I was at one point, but a long time ago up here, Laura said that something along the lines of it's something that should need consent before I bungle somebody's brain or whatever. For one, almost every time I ask a question, I say, if you don't mind me asking. After, it's like immediately as I'm done with the question, I'm like, if that's okay, because I know how it's going to be. But to me, that strengthens the relationship, especially with strangers, because the thing is that I don't forget what they said. I even if they don't know or whatever, and I'm always ready. Like it's more of an open invitation, because I assume that if I am going to ask a question that is like maybe deeply personal, I assume it's implied, like very, very heavily implied, that like I also have no reservations about answering questions like that. It would be bizarre to me if someone asked me a deeply personal, introspective question, and then and then I ask them, and they're like, "Oh, I don't want to talk about that." Like that's weird to me, and so obviously I would never be that way. But I've also found that just straight up telling people like, "Hey, ask me anything you want." Be like, what's your favorite color? And I'm like, it's not along the same lines of what I was thinking.
Yeah, I mean, I know, I find most conversations extremely shallow and dull. Mm-hmm. So, I have to put on my I'm semi-interested face,
See, I almost like when conversations are shallow, because I almost don't like taking the time. Like, I don't know. Like because once I find out that I don't agree with someone on so many levels, like just fundamentally, I just lose interest in even like having that conversation. So like, I almost don't like getting there sometimes. Like if I know someone is just like, I don't know, that's weird. It's a weird thing. I guess it's just like, I don't really like debating much, like I'm not much of a debater because, where there's winners and losers, because I usually lose, but
no, to me, that sounds like a conservation of energy. You like recognize this is fruitless. Why would I invest my time? And, I'll just see you later. Have a good one. I understand that. I just don't relate, I guess, because
you're a debater. I'm not a debater unless I'm really, unless you really get me started, because I still don't want to talk shallow.
Yeah, so let me stop you there and offer a counterpoint. No, I'm just kidding. The whole concept that in a debate there's winners and losers, I guess maybe that's like but like I don't live that. Oh my God, was that a spider? Did you just see a spider on my neck?
I can't see.
Oh my God, sorry. Sorry. I don't like spiders very much, especially when they're on my jugular. Anyway, I don't think there's winners and losers. I debate, quote, I debate for couple reasons. One, I love to learn. That's how I learn. I learn other people's perspectives, but also the way they talk and what I know about them. I can see a linear path, like how they chose this way. And especially what's interesting to me is when there is a linear path that would indicate that they would make a certain choice and they made a different choice. That fascinates me. That's a demonstration of human will. And I always wonder like how they got there and stuff like that, you know. And I learn things about, because like, you know, you're like this chat here, like they say things all the time that I've never heard of. And what in the...
I don't know. What is that?
I don't know. I guess, anyway, but you know what I'm saying? But
Yeah.
I see from Colton's perspective where it's like, why would I do this? Like, that is exhausting. Like, I would like to, you know, further discuss something I already agree with, and maybe we can learn
Well,
more.
no, it's more of just like, I don't know. The debating is like, there's like, and at least like, from what I see, like it's a lot of like polarization or like trying to take people's words and twist them, or like, see, I don't like the whole like debating thing, you know. Like I like sit there and like try to understand someone's like point of view, and then most of the debating happens in my head, you know, like.
Yeah, I mean, to me, I'm not trying to win or lose. I mean, I'm trying not to lose, but I'm there to learn as well. Because even if they don't change my mind, okay, there are certain things that are set in me. Even if they don't change my mind, I feel like I have learned at least how other people get to this perspective.
Right.
And I find that interesting.
Yeah. Buckeye said debate without winners would be conversation. Not the way I do it. I don't know.
I'm thinking you don't always debate, but sometimes it's just a really aggressive conversation.
Yes, extremely aggressive.
Yeah, no,
Like,
I don't
oh
care
my
about
God.
winning. I just, you know, I almost don't care if I don't want there to be sorry, I don't want there to be any winners. I just prefer if we both lose. You know what I mean?
You just both leave like wishing you didn't have
frustrated
that
and angry with too many questions. That's my modus operandi. Yeah,
It really is. He would argue with a tree stump. Well,
I said this last time. Only if the tree stump had something stupid to say, and I'd be like, oh, okay, why would you? And then, so why do you think that? Crazy. Anyway.
Yeah. Okay. So because we've done this for an hour and a half, and I'm just gonna sum up the rest of that video. I'll tell you what I'll do. If y'all want to, let me get back there for just a second. If y'all want to watch, there's only a couple more minutes, and basically what it says is that the problem is within us collectively. Okay, as a whole collection of people. It's not individuals, the wars, all that kind of stuff. Which,
well,
I mean, that's another great topic. I just wanted to cover what I said this video was about too.
Yeah.
So what do you think about that, Colton? What do you think about that statement?
Well, I think like the role of the individual, like as far as like you know, like their consciousness, or even just like their, I don't know. I think like people not caring about politics, not caring about religion, not caring about like, you know, like it's too much thinking. I think that's like super destructive, and people are like, well, you know, like there's nothing I can do about it. But thing is, like, there is, you know what I mean? Like that, and everybody thinks like that. And I don't know, like there's a lot of like, that's, you know, like obviously that's the only way you stand up to like an oppressive government is like the people, you know, like through like social movements and I don't know, like the I feel like individuals are responsible for, you know, like in some shape, like contributing to innovation and reform, like by doing like maybe like peaceful protests, you know, like they often aren't, but they're supposed to be. I don't know, just fostering like engagement from the community, you know, like I don't know, like people, you know, like it's actually crazy how much people that just make dumb memes on Facebook, you know, about stuff, like how much influence they have over people's brains. And I see it all the time.
Yeah.
Like I see people like that literally think in like Kevin Gates quotes, and it's like it's the dumbest thing I've ever seen. But it's really, you know, and especially like in this day and age, you know, like a lot of parents, you know, they don't want to raise their children, and they don't have time, and they just put their kids in front of an iPad, and you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's
I like this statement by Lara.
Isn't that the point of this fragmentation, to make people forget their humanity and commonality, which is, you know, it sounds like you're implying that it's orchestrated, which is very dangerous work. It's very dangerous talk. Then you better be careful. You don't say that in the wrong part of this. Anyway, that is actually the point. 100%. The government doesn't want us to blah, blah, blah. I don't think, but I mean, that is part of the problem. I think it's twofolded. You know, I think it's twofold. You know, I think that it is partly that it's too much to deal with, and that it's more enjoyable to find like-minded individuals where you can all say regurgitated information at each other, because it takes less brain power. Then now that's a neuroscientific fact that you are programmed to essentially travel down the same path over and over, because it requires less energy than forming a new path. And when it comes to like beliefs and things like that, that is a very big deal. And so that's why in this age of interconnectivity, instead of, actual, connectivity, you find thousands of subgroups, lightly connected about. I mean, who thought that furries were a thing before the internet was around? But it's because they didn't have anyone want us to talk to about it. And now all of a sudden, you can find a forum on 4chan, and now, anyway,
yeah,
it's unrelated, but but that's the thing, and it's frustrating. But I think too, like we said before, I think even just being introspective is a difficult neural pathway to create, especially, of your own volition, right? Without any trauma or whatever, but to do it just for the sake of doing it is,
most people.
High cost, low reward type of outlook. So.
Well, that is true. I like the way you said that. High cost, low reward. Well, I would differ to say it is a high reward, but there's a lot of work. There's still a lot of high cost.
And it's not seemingly evident, the reward,
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's all theoretical, hypothetical. Why would I do this? It's like panning for gold almost.
Yeah, because I can come home from work and I can sit in front of the TV and be entertained and relax and de-stress. And that is an instant high reward versus
immeasurable
high cost. Yeah. I can just turn the brain off, watch a sitcom. I'm happy. I go to bed, You know
that by the end of the night, at least the worst thing that would happen is that you'd leave a bad review on IMDb. But, that you're going to watch a movie, you know that for the most part, you're going to be entertained. Or introspection often causes you more peril and anxiety and discomfort than almost anything else, aside from like eating a handful of tacks or something. But because it's not good for the...
Yeah. Well, yes, Hiawatha, we are. And we're getting on to a Native American curse here in just a minute. That's where we're headed right now. But yeah, the video that we watched really talks about, I'll sum it up for you. We just said this, that it's not as much, even though they're all related, it's not as much about individual presidents or, their politics, their outlook, as it is. The point of the video is it's a collective. It's all of us. We have not one world leader. Now, I agree with that and I disagree because I do, I do go down every rabbit hole I can find. I haven't found Wonderland yet, but I am still looking. But yeah, I go down all the rabbit holes. So I'm very much aware of how the things that we talked about previously, really do have a bearing in here. But yeah, introspection is important because if we looked at ourselves and collectively, if we were introspective, we could get it together, band together and say, hey, this is a problem. But let's go to this right here because I think this is very interesting. Now, y'all all have heard of Tecumseh, right? Y'all remember from history?
No. What happened?
Really? Really?
There's too much information in the world for me to remember everything. What do you mean? Really?
This is This is an actual photograph that we're looking at.
Wow,
I'm just
kidding.
That's crazy. This is Tecumseh. But here we go.
Well, I thought that was a picture of Getty Images. Sorry.
This is from the King collection. Yeah, this is probably done in ink, looks like. All right. But we're talking about U.S. President William Henry Harrison. Now, again, the only president who is not blood related is, so far, is Martin Van Buren. So, we're talking about the indigenous leader Tecumseh. What are y'all laughing at? I can't see you right now.
I don't know. Colton laughed. I didn't know what that, and then I looked at Laura said, now you have to remember that the sketch is not a photograph, and it caused me internal peril. I was like, oh no, I have to make a note of that.
No, I've seen Laura said 2 Pams. Oh my God, have either of you worked in HR?
Oh my goodness. You're going to officize the live people here?
Oh, wait a second.
Anyway, sorry. Please
Okay.
continue.
So here's a little history lesson, okay? All right. William Henry Harrison. Some believe the curse is the reason that Harrison and every following president up to Kennedy, who was elected in a year ending in 0, died in office. Which is not, they didn't necessarily die in office, but they either almost did. Okay, so let's go. In 1840, now, I mean, the country's been around a little while by 1840, but still. Okay, let me, and it's just talking about his politics. While Tecumseh was the leader of the Shawnee, this is when William Henry Harrison was president, the opposing side in the battle, his hatred for Harrison actually dated back to 1809. While governor of the Indian Territory, Harrison negotiated a treaty with indigenous peoples in which the Shawnee ceded large tracts of land to the U.S. government. In other words, the U.S. government came and stole their land. That sounds so nice. They ceded. No, it was stolen. Let's call it what it is. The U.S. came in there, took their land, kicked them off of it.
They requisitioned the land.
Yeah, they
signed some papers.
They
paid some forms.
Yes, they had a realtor, and it was a fair price. Whatever.
Determined by the U.S. government at the time.
Yeah,
what fair price was.
Exactly.
It just so happened it was a handful of coins, but whatever.
It was probably not even. It was probably like get off the land. Period. Here's the army. So angered by what he considered Harrison's unfair tactics in negotiating the deal, Tecumseh and his brother organized a group of local tribes and attacked Harrison's army, thus starting the Battle of Tippecanoe. All right, so that was a slogan he ran on. During the War of 1812, Harrison further reinforced his anti-indigenous reputation when he defeated the British and the tribes that aided him in the Battle of the Thames. So they actually help him. The indigenous people actually help him, and he is still going to be a horse's rear end to him.
I'm sorry, does racism not... it's weird to me that that's like, I guess I understand why people are mad about that, right? Like, it's like, yeah, they helped him and he still, but like, racism being used as a unifier of a common enemy while you're, in a place of power like that, like, yeah, like that was definitely how he was going to be, I don't know. I guess, yeah. I don't know. That's like, do you not see the parallel to like every day that you're alive these days too? Or is that just me?
Oh, well, yeah, but they just can't get away with stealing land as
propaganda
they can still
in place of real policies. What do you mean? Anyway, sorry.
True.
Oh yeah.
This additional defeat and the loss of more land to the American government, I'm going to have to try to get this one right, is purportedly what drove Tecumseh's brother Tenskwatawa. Tenskwatawa.
Yeah, he was gonna say you're skipping a W in there.
Yeah. Tenskwatawa. All right, there we go. Old Tens. Known by the Shawnee as the prophet, to place a curse of death on all future U.S. presidents elected in years ending in 0. So, let's see what happened. Okay, so Harrison was elected president with 53% of the vote, but he barely had a chance to settle in. By the way, this guy, if you don't know, I'll just, they told him don't go outside. Like, it was in his inaugural address, and they're like, look, Mr. President, you've got a cold, it's rainy, it's windy, they didn't have antibiotics back then. And they're like, you know what, you really shouldn't do an inaugural address today, but he insisted, and they're like, okay, just make it short and sweet, buddy. And no, he stayed out there something like, I don't know, I don't have this information, but it was something like an hour and a half. Like, it was ridiculous. He stayed out there just flapping his gums this whole time. Of course,
I hope that's how I die.
Gums flapping?
Yeah, I die because I was talking for too long. And poetic and well deserved. Anyway.
Okay, well, anyway, he stayed. So his cold turned into severe pneumonia, and he died 30 days later. His inauguration was on March 4th. He died on April 4th. So there you go. His death was the first in a series of tragedies that struck presidents winning an election at the start of a new decade. The pattern that would become known as Tecumseh's Curse, or the Curse of Tippecanoe. Now, but here's the thing. Okay, so you may say, like, oh, well, whatever. It was, a Native American curse, but look at this. Somebody else read some of this.
Abraham Lincoln was elected in 1860 as the first person to run under the Republican Party. The United States quickly moved into a civil war, which would last from 1861 to 1865. On April 9th, General Robert E. Lee surrendered to General Ulysses S. Grant, thereby ending the rift that was tearing apart the nation. Only 5 days later, on April 14th, 1865, Lincoln was assassinated by Southern sympathizer John Wilkes Booth.
Okay, so he was the first one. Okay, so after Tecumseh, let's see, what year was this? This was, I don't know what year he said this. Okay, but Harrison dies. Then, 1860, because you got to remember that 0 at the end. So Abraham Lincoln. Okay, go on.
James Garfield was elected to the presidency in 1880. He took office on March 4th, 1881. On July 2nd, 1881, Charles J. Guiteau shot the president, which eventually led to his death on September 19th in 1881. The mentally unbalanced Guiteau was upset because he had been denied a diplomatic post by the Garfield administration. He was eventually hung for his crime in 1882. I actually heard about this assassination attempt. The man was, I think what had happened is he wrote a letter detailing he wrote a letter on how to, he wasn't like an actual diplomat. He just wrote a letter. He was like, this is how you win the election. And then no one ever responded to him or anything like that. Like, he basically just scribbled it down on a piece of paper. This is how you'll win. And then when James Garfield won, he was mad. He's like, well, why didn't you make me a chairman of something? I gave you the letter that told you how to win, and then you won. And then he shot James Garfield. It was just crazy, by the way. It's like, he just, I just thought that was interesting trivia. See, those are the kind of things that I do know, that I have memory for, that I don't know why I have. But anyway.
No, I don't know either. You're breaking up a little bit. I don't know why. Who
really?
knows? Yeah, it could be my computer. Okay, next one, William McKinley. Does anybody want to read that one?
William McKinley was elected to his second term in 1900. Once again, he defeated his opponent, William Jennings Bryan, as he had in 1896. On September 6, 1901, McKinley was shot by Leon Salgos.
You got it.
I don't know.
One more time.
Leon did it.
Leon Zolgos.
Witters.
Zolgos. I don't know. McKinley died on September 14th. Leon called himself an anarchist and admitted to killing the president because he was the enemy of the people. He was electrocuted in October 1901.
Yeah. So, okay, assassinations. All right. Warren G. Harding, elected in 1920, is widely known as one of the worst presidents of all time. I would probably. When was this article written?
Wasn't that supposed to be? Wasn't that technically supposed to be Hoover, even though he was faced with an impossible task? Or am I misremembering that?
I don't know. People, they do blame Hoover a lot. I don't think it was all Hoover's fault. But anyway, on August 2nd, 1923, Harding was visiting San Francisco on a cross-country voyage of understanding.
Hey, what? Hold on. Let me do a little research. A voyage of understanding.
Yes.
Ooh, yo. I can definitely. So it appears here on your resume you're unemployed for 2. I prefer the term "voyage of understanding." I would hope that you would respect that.
Yeah.
Anyway, yes, no, but I had no income during those 4 years or whatever.
Yeah. I'd like to go on a voyage of understanding. As somebody would pay my mortgage and car payment, I would be glad to go on that voyage. But that's interesting. Instead of I'm staying at home playing video games. No, I'm on a voyage of understanding. It's a great thought. Anyway, on his voyage of understanding, he was supposed to meet people across the nation. He suffered a stroke and died at the Palace Hotel. So, again, elected in 1920.
Oh, the voyage never ended. Somewhere out there, he is still trying to understand.
I don't know. Maybe he is still voyaging, just on another plane. Or, I don't know. But that's what happened to his voyage. So, he had a stroke. All right, somebody take the next one.
Let's see here. Franklin Roosevelt was elected in his 3rd term in 1940. He would be elected again in 1944. His presidency began in the depths of the Great Depression and ended shortly after the fall of Hitler in World War II. He died on April 12th in 1945 of a cerebral hemorrhage. Since he was elected during one of his terms in a year that ended with a 0, he is considered part of Tecumseh's curse.
Yeah. Now, he did serve a couple of terms, but one of them ended in a 0. So, I mean,
John F. Kennedy became the youngest elected president upon his victory in 1960. This charismatic leader suffered some highs and lows during his short term in office, including the Bays of Pigs invasion, the creation of the Berlin Wall, and the Cuban Missile Crisis. On November 22nd, 1963, Kennedy was riding on a motorcycle through Dallas and was assassinated. Lee Harvey Oswald was found to be guilty as a lone gunman by the Warren Commission. However, many people still question whether more individuals were involved in a conspiracy to kill the president.
Yeah, that's a whole nother ball of wax.
That's a big one. That's a big.
Yeah, that one and George H.W. and all that kind of stuff.
Oh, you don't believe in the magic bullet that entered someone in the shoulder and exited through their leg or whatever nonsense that they try to spin? That's totally how that went, man. The government is not going to. They knew what happened. They had the forensics. So they had the measuring tapes.
Somebody said earlier, hold up.
Oh, wait a second.
Yeah, did you know that, Hiawatha said, did you know that the Battle of Tippecanoe happened in and around Delphi?
I did not know that. Now I'm going to have to go look this up. Huh.
So what's
is
the
that
whole...
Is that where the county name came from, Hiawatha? Isn't there a Tippecanoe County? Or am I wrong?
Real quick, because
okay.
I just am. So Delphi happened because two girls got murdered or something, and then
Yes.
there was then like an infinite amount of time where there's a conspiracy or people. What? So what's the deal? Is there like an actual?
Like,
or is it all just like speculation?
Story.
Yeah, that's oh God, Delphi.
Just
Delphi.
tell me. Don't tell me the story. Even just give me the bullet points. What people think.
Well, first, there has been a guy named Richard Allen who was arrested in October of 2022. His trial will start in October, but basically there's so much BS around the whole case. Oh my God. And for 6 years, they didn't really know who did it. They thought everybody did it. Then they couldn't. Anyway, he was like one of the most unlikely people to be involved. And since then, there have been a lot of allegations of Odinism. There's a lot of drugs in the area. It could have been like the whole family. When I tell you, it's like a whole can of worms. But basically, the guy that they are accusing of it will go on trial in October.
So essentially,
Sorry,
you're gonna keep covering it.
I can't hear you. You've got a delay.
I say you're going to keep covering it in October.
Yes, I'm probably going to do one. I might do it tomorrow. I don't know. There's a lot of stuff that came out, and I was working, and I couldn't do it. A lot of hearings last week, and everything was just on the days that I worked. So I didn't. I know everybody's talked about it, but if y'all want me to cover what happened, y'all know my opinions. If you want me to cover that, give me a thumbs up in the chat, and let me see. I'm Delphi. Jeez.
And be sure to like and subscribe if you want me to cover this new topic.
No, I've spent so many hundreds of hours, thousands of hours on Delphi. So, yeah.
Well, it's so interesting. A place with a really silly name is also where the Tippecanoe. I can't get over that. It's so stupid. What happened out there? What do you call this place? Feller Tippecanoe. All right.
Yeah, that was Harrison. The beginning of this article, okay?
Right. But now, so I'm interested in this part that I have yet to read. It just has a like a chapter break or something. Breaking the curse. In 1980, Ronald Reagan became the oldest man to be elected president. This actor turned politician also suffered highs and lows during his 2 terms in office. He is seen as being an important figure in the breakdown of the former Soviet Union. However, his presidency was tarnished by the Iran-Contra scandal. On March 30, 1981, John Hinckley attempted to assassinate Reagan in Washington, D.C. Reagan was shot, but was able to survive with quick medical attention. Reagan was the first to foil Tecumseh's curse, and some hypothesize the president who finally broke it for good.
Now, I mean, yes, he didn't die, but, being shot, I wouldn't say that was a great thing,
So this article's got to be old because it says Ronald Reagan's the oldest man to be elected president, but
yeah,
he was 64 and Joe Biden was 81.
Yeah, I think Trump and Biden are about the same age too. Close.
Interesting fact.
Close.
Anyway.
Trump's a little younger.
So
not much.
All these are going by 20-year gaps, right?
Yeah. So now George Bush was elected in 2000, but he survived 2 assassination attempts. Now he wasn't actually hit. However, I mean, I guess I see what they're saying. Reagan didn't die from Tecumseh's curse. He did survive. George Bush wasn't even hit, but there were attempts. And then you got Joe Biden. But I will tell you this, Joe Biden, I mean, I wouldn't say, I mean, he hasn't had an assassination attempt, but I mean, his
hypothesize that that's why he dropped out, because he was afraid of being assassinated?
No.
Because of this article from thoughtcode.com.
No, I'm not. what I'm saying, I'm saying that his health problems, not everybody, like the one president, whoever that was, he died of a stroke. I mean, it wasn't an assassination attempt, although a good many of them are. No, but the fact that you could argue that his brain has been gone since, 2020, which I would not argue with, but I mean, he's gotten to the point that, he's gotten to the point that even the Democrats can't even cover for him anymore. So he's, clearly stepped down for running, for his second term, basically because he had no Democratic support. I mean, he's still in office, so, unless he passes away, but clearly there is a major problem with him. He's still got till January, so, to escape the curse. But I would argue that, when your brain is so absent that you cannot keep your job, then and is it age? I don't know. But I thought it was very interesting, okay, that we've seen so many people with Tecumseh's curse. I mean, that is odd. The people that were assassinated, elected in a year that ends with a 0, and then, it's like, again, we were talking about the presidents all being related. What's conspiracy? I don't know. What do you think?
Laura said a while ago, the specificity of the 0 part makes it very obvious this legend was started by white people. And then she just said most of the election years, huh?
Why by white people?
Well, because of the separation of, it's not. So I think people misunderstand the usage of racism a lot when they say that like it's just about hate. I think it's more about propaganda for the most part, especially historically. It's a tool to separate groups, and so I would assume that the imagination of this or whatever would probably have come, if this is an old urban tale or whatever, and this was a story spun around that time, then they would have just painted Native Americans as the bad guys or whatever. But she said most of the election years in the U.S. are odd numbers, so either he wanted to make a very ineffectual curse or it's pure legend. And I just wanted to say that he simply didn't have a high enough power level to affect years ending in odd numbers. So he only had to settle for what he could actually achieve. It is what it is.
Well, I don't know, but I don't know. I had never actually heard of Tecumseh's curse until today. I didn't realize that that was a thing. And when I was researching for this kind of stuff, I was like, huh. He didn't have a pyramid, Lara says. Yeah. Well, and how many years? Because this started back in, early 1800s. So, how long does a curse go on like that when somebody, I don't know. I know there were a lot of people praying for Reagan, though. That was one of the things that happened at that time that, and I was a kid, but I remember everybody, it was a collective national thing to pray for Reagan and James Brady, who, if you go back and you look at the videotapes of that time, James Brady was hit right here, and he was with Reagan, and you really, really thought there was no way he could survive that. And I remember, through the years, at some point, everybody was watching the news daily to see if Brady was going to live or die. And years later, I remember an interview by Brady, who basically, he was very bitter because he couldn't talk right. It changed the way he looked. And I remember him, basically saying, I wish they would have let me go ahead and die. But interestingly enough, then years past that, I saw another interview with Brady who was very glad that he had survived. So, I know there was a lot of prayer going on for those two at the time. And that was definitely a collective national thing.
That's actually incredibly interesting. So whether or not this is just like a very wild series of coincidences, which I don't know, statistics and all, and just looking at the numbers, like there was something like literally every 20 years an event like this happened, except for this year. Or this go around. So we don't know yet. We don't have the definitive information yet. Of course, it said, George W. Bush, elected in the curse active year of 2000, survived 2 assassination attempts and several alleged plots during his 2 terms in office. The idea being that when Ronald Reagan didn't die, that the curse was lifted. But
or maybe it was broken through prayer.
Right.
Like I said, it was a very big collective.
So what is interesting to me about this is that if there were I don't know what kind of, just a generational curse or whatever, if there were a curse, and it was broken by prayer, to my knowledge, I'm sure that some of these guys were prayed for a little bit, probably. I don't remember I don't remember. I wasn't alive during the political climate of 1980, but I am curious, like if it were like a nationwide prayer attempt or whatever, and you have a clear line of, stats to look at, and then you see it that year something changed. I just find that to be just incredibly interesting. This whole concept of like warfare, but like, in the spiritual sense, like one fella, cursed a whole, every year, every whatever, and then the other side's like, no, he's going to live this time. And then, the whole curse, he's like, I've been foiled. And then, he yells from the distance and you're like, it's been 100 years. How are you still yelling in the distance? But anyway, I just find it interesting. I just think that's fascinating, really.
It is because, I do remember that being, kind of like there was a similar gathering together, I guess, a collective thinking on 9/11. There for a while, there for a hot second, everybody had American flags up. We all loved each other. We were very united, and then that one didn't last that long, but it was still a collective thing, but even much more so for Reagan, and Reagan had just taken office, and so, Reagan and Brady especially, I, for one, did not expect Brady to live. And I think if you really go look at some of the stuff about that, you'll understand, like, man, that was impossible odds that he could not only live through it, but that he could actually function, learn. Yes, he did have to learn how to do everything over, but still. Okay, Lara's deep dive. Okay. 2 times actors were killed by Roman chariot. The production of Ben-Hur in 1925. Oh, did they do it in 1925? And then the second time was the second production of Ben-Hur in 1959. That's interesting. Maybe don't do another. don't do another one.
Sounds to me like the usage of chariots was just like, confidently miscalculated. Like, we'll just whip these horses and we'll go spinning. And then, it's not the same. You can't dig your heels into this side of a chariot. It doesn't go, ow, I'll slow down. Maybe, I don't know. I don't actually know that much about chariots, but I do suspect that, that is unlikely for sure.
Yeah.
I wish there were more data points. I wish people had just continuously tried to recreate Ben-Hur just every year, and then someone else dies and they do it again and they do it again, and then finally someone's like, what's going on around here? And then they're like, get in contact with the family of the first director who started the whole thing, and they found out that he stole some land, or he was trying to film on a burial ground or something, and some man yelled a curse at him, and I don't know. That's the kind of statistics that I'm looking for.
I don't know, but there are a lot of weird curses out there. There's a lot of weird stuff I've seen. I try not to look too much into curses, but yeah. That's a whole nother one. Yeah, the Twilight Zone. Let me pull this up. It was more than a helicopter in that one. Like there was was it Twilight Zone? I was thinking it was the Curse of Poltergeist. That is a crazy story too, that movie. But yeah. So I mean, with the presidents you had, as we see now, bloodline. It makes you think. I mean, I'm just saying, if I am a person who was not a descendant of King John II, I'm thinking I'm not going to get elected, no matter how good my platform is. But, I mean, at the same time, you have this curse going on. So, being that they're all from the same bloodline, was it easier? Was it easier to place a curse if they all came from the same bloodline?
That is like metaphysical science. Like I don't really know how to go forward with that line of thinking, really.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know either.
What I was gonna say is that the concept of generational curses, and your family will be cursed for 1,000 years, and your firstborn will always get polio or whatever, like you hear that all the time, you hear like, but like, why aren't there ever like, generational blessings at work, like
there are, the Bible says there are.
Is that so? I never hear about them,
Okay, hold on. I'm trying to get the numbers right. A curse, you know what? And I need to see how many years in between. That's a something to look up. The years with the Harrison curse and the presidential curse, because is it like the 5th generation? The sins of the fathers are passed down. I think it's like the 5th. But for the blessings, now this is really cool because God says that the blessings for the generations goes to the 100th generation. Can you imagine? So your blessings now, you can thank somebody bunches and bunches of generations, and I'm thinking, what did y'all do back in my family? I know what you did, but I'm like, okay, well, I'm breaking this curse, but so good news for you, bungler.
Guess so. Man, okay, so I need to get a hold of some generational blessing tech, make us all wealthy and intelligent and charismatic and able to throw a frisbee a really long way. And you won't think that's useful, but then some guy will be like, I can throw this frisbee a really long way. And then someone else will be like, I've seen someone throw a frisbee a really long way. And you're like, no, I can throw it a really long way. And then they do, and they're like, wow, can you be the president? I've never seen someone throw a frisbee such a really long way. Anyway, that was stupid. I was just kind of rambling because I was trying to find some of the notes that I had. I wanted to talk about things that I did think were very interesting. I love the concept of metaphysical, spiritual type stuff like that. But it's a lot less measurable than things that we can clearly see. I am curious how important and how uncoincidental this whole every leader and both of the most, I guess, I don't know, because Britain was the most modernized country in the world for a while, right? And then it was America, I think. And then I think maybe Japan has us beat.
Rome.
Yeah. But I am curious at the end of the day how important it is for Because I'm sure there are parents out there that have had a child and are like, wow, it's a good thing he's cute. You know what I mean? Like they're not going to be able to lead a country type of intelligence, but I'm just wondering, so what else is the big deal then, right? Like, and if I don't know if there's any like metaphysical, postulating or any answers you have about that, like, what would be the purpose? You know what I mean? Like aside from all the, all the psychological, the traits, the cultural heritage and all that, aside, like what would be, in your opinion, like I guess you would say the spiritual benefits of having like everyone who runs the world be related or whatever? Like,
well, I think God, you're going into a lot of conspiratorial areas that.
Well, I'm just asking, from like a spiritual standpoint, right? Like,
well, from a spiritual standpoint, if as some people think that it is all, like Colton said, a collective conscience, to rule the world, and that is what a lot of people suspect, that and because of the high level meetings and the elite things that they have and are partake in, then you would be more able, especially if you're, let's just say, I'm not saying the presidents are all evil, okay? I'm just saying hypothetically, if they were, you would have that. I mean, we know from history that's always been somebody's desire, to be the emperor of the world, to be the king of the world. But the world is too big for one ruler, really. So, I mean, if you have a collective bunch of people with all the same mindset and the same bloodline and the same curses, whether you call that personality or whatever, just the way they were raised, then it seems to me that you would have a better chance of it actually happening. You know what I'm saying? If you're working from the same bloodline. I mean, because truly, if you want to get into the metaphysical, demons run in bloodline. So if you have a particular weakness or sin or whatever you want to call it,
could that be one of the reasons why every on like the global elite are all I ran across a term the other day. What is it? MAPS, minor attracted persons, which is just the worst way to frame that, by the way. It makes it seem so valid. Is that why you would suspect that all the global elite are all MAPS?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean,
or is that just well, we've had all the, we've had a taste of everything we can conceive of. How about children? I don't know what bridge, I don't know where that thought comes from, but with like the whole, Epstein thing, it just makes you wonder. I mean, it's really curious. Why it was such a big deal?
I mean, honestly, it's not just a it's not just an attraction thing. If you want to get into the horrific, which we really can't talk about on YouTube, it's not
after
just
all this. There's still a line. That's
there's a lot of lines. There's a lot of lines. But yeah, when you're talking about that kind of stuff, it's not just an attraction. There is a purpose, okay? Because if you want to get into the dark side and into dark magic, you need the red substance of minors for power. And any occultist will tell you that when you talk about a red substance ritual, it holds far more power than lighting candles, whatever, Eye of Newt, whatever goes in the cauldron. You know what I'm saying. But,
Toe of gerbil, Eye of Newt, and some leaves off that tree over there.
Yeah. I mean, but yeah, when you talk about stuff like that, a blood ritual carries way more weight. and way more power. And the people who have the strongest blood, oh, I shouldn't have said that word, but I said it anyway.
I didn't hear it. Can you say it again?
They are innocent children. That is the strongest. I mean, and you know, the Bible, the scripture says the life is in the blood. That's in the Old Testament. And so when you're taking that life force and you take it from an innocent, whether, you know, they like virgins and children, is the best offering that they can do. The most powerful. So
if that's true, why don't they just have children? You know, make like a animal farm. Oh,
they do.
That's horrifying.
It is horrifying, but that is they do, and those children are never registered, no birth certificates and stuff like that. But
hey, you know, on the bright side, it's been documented that if a child is raised outside the context of like a social structure, that they don't necessarily develop the forethought to be able to process such unimaginable trauma. So there is a silver lining. Don't forget to look at the silver linings of life.
Well, I mean, the ones that are, I mean, it's like a farm. It's like a breeding farm. And they are
If I find out that's who they've been talking about all these years with Old MacDonald, I'm going to have a come apart.
No. No, but yeah, I mean, you're getting into some really, I'm just going to put this up here because I probably shouldn't say it out loud. But look at Hiawatha's comment. I highlighted it. That is, you want to find something truly horrifying, look that up.
Like Louis Vuittons. Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Red bottoms. Yeah, that was such a big deal. I had a girlfriend spent like $200 on a pair of red bottoms. It's crazy because that's the part of the shoe that gets dirty. Why would you?
I know.
Put the red part on the
Jamboree
bottom.
told me when she's rich, she's going to buy me some. She's like, you would want that. I'm like, no. She's like, why? They're beautiful. I'm like, because they cost too much. And I'm like, I don't care. I literally do not care. It is a waste of money on me.
I like the idea of purchasing an accessory where the distinguishing feature of said accessory is in a part of the accessory that you will never lay eyes on unless you are at home and have removed them. I think that is...
Yeah. Okay,
Wait,
and Samantha says the red stuff can come from the spell or curse caster. It's going to be about focus, belief, emotions. Also depends on which deity you may be calling for help. True. And but in dark magic, it is, you know, the big guy, who's really not so big. I mean, you know what's really cool? I'm gonna just throw this out here, okay, for y'all. I think you two know. I think I've said this to you two before, but you know, the big guy, we'll just call him Satan himself. You know, I'm not saying he's powerless. He's not, but you know, a lot of people, and certainly if you are in that vein, that is definitely something to be afraid of. However, the Bible says that we're going to look at him like at the end of time, like when we're looking at earth from the heavenly perspective, the Bible says that we're going to look at him narrowly. It's like this way, like, almost like you need a magnifying glass, this big, scary thing. And the Bible says we're going to look on him narrowly and say, this thing right here, this little guy is what deceived the nations and caused all this trouble. Really? This little guy?
I love Middle English verbiage. You're going to look at someone narrowly, like...
like...
Yeah, no, I mean,
can we put Zoom on?
There's so much. There's just such an annoying amount of all the devil's after me narrative spun around. Like, man, just what? I just don't get. It's just so irritating to me. There's like this whole freaking, you know, you should be afraid of people. I think that's where your focus should lie. And if you're all caught up in the devil or whatever, you're looking at the wrong place, I think.
Well, I mean, but some people do get a measure of power from there.
Well, I mean, yeah, sure, but but then again, that's still the problem being with people, I think. But,
yeah. Lara says, I love that people spend all this energy on conspiracies of the elite. Meanwhile, the elite suck the red stuff out of all of us. Yeah, they do. They probably come up with these and laugh and laugh. Well, probably they do, because so far they are unchallenged, undefeated. So, yeah.
Is that why I'm so pale? Like, I wake up every morning and I just took a little bit.
Yeah, when you get your paycheck and you see how much they took, like, why are they getting all my money? Yeah. That's when I feel pale. I'm like, oh, look how much I actually earned. How much I'm not taking home. Thank you. But anyway. All right. Any last thoughts, y'all?
I did have some.
It was
hold on,
sucked right out of you.
Think so. Hold on, give me a second. You guys
what about you, Colt?
I have some questions I could ask you.
Okay.
The
voice of reason.
Well, let me ask you this, because I have my own opinion on it. What role does individual consciousness play in the collective creation of governance structures or governments?
Well, I mean, I think that's why it's important to keep your individuality. Because if you become in the collective, it's kind of like, you the old saying, you show me your friends and I'll show you who you are. I mean, if you don't keep that individuality to a point, I mean, I know everybody says like, oh, we need, one religion, one government. We all live in peace. No, that is not how you live in peace at all. So, I mean, a collective of like-minded people can do a whole lot. I mean, absolutely. But that's the problem. The collective mindset is usually flawed and usually sinful.
I found I was going to say, it's just a series of words that I typed in order that at the time made sense to me, and I think I'll just read it, because it was a point that I found interesting, especially after watching that first video and I was thinking about it all. Mm-hmm. So the evil of a nation cannot be measured by the depth or intent of a single leader, rather the more or less unconscious actions of leadership as a whole. If these traits are indeed carried by the majority of those who find themselves in power, this X variable, then the subconscious driving force of okay, hold on. If these traits are carried by the majority of the people who find themselves in power, then the subconscious driving force of all of them would follow a similar trajectory, but also stand unified against opposers of this ideology, eventually burrowing in and multiplying this known or unknown, rather maybe potentially even subconscious school of thought for years and years and years, until just like any other majority living organism would begin to swallow the culture, or at least the reigning political compass and the internal engines of the leadership. They would swallow the culture of the world, and as one sort of sentient being begin to push it towards that end. That being the best that being the best case scenario of all the visible evils that we see leadership make, which again, that's setting aside any metaphysical talk, that's setting aside any conspiratorial talk. If this was even all like a type of accident that all these related people became leaders or whatever, they would still have descended from the same groups of people. They still would have shared very similar cultural heritage, but they also would have predominantly shared the same thought patterns and processes as each other, and meaning that they would inherently and subconsciously, like I said, to begin to multiply and be able to more quickly suppress. So that's something that you see a lot of in tragedies and scandals and stuff like that. That you're like, well, this could have been stopped by any one person, but no, but that's the problem, is that individuality often in these circles gets quashed because it interrupts the flow of everything, but it's also inherently something you think about, you don't go against it. This is, we all agree about this. Don't don't push against it. And if you do, they get removed, type of thing. But on the other hand, that actually gives a very hopeful tone to the concept of movies, media, and everyone is discussions about aliens and stuff like that. Everyone's all humanity is a inherently evil race of, and they got to the top by, killing and all this stuff, and exploitation and, whatever. But, if it is true that in some way or another, all these groups are actually one technical subsect of people, then the bright side being that it just so happens that those are the ones in charge, and that there's a possibility that people are good at heart, despite what you see on the global stage. So, I mean, not that it really matters much for anything, but if you're totally done with humanity after watching the leaders lead, it might be a little bit of a silver lining in that for you too. And who's to say that the opposite can't happen, right? That a group of quote unquote good people can find each other and start to go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to.
You're fine.
I keep been doing that all night, cutting you off.
No, you're good. I talk for so long, it's inevitable and actually encouraged, by the way.
Well, finish what you're saying, because I'm going to try to find this really fast.
But, it's okay, Samantha says, it's hard to defeat an enemy with players on both of the two sides. I agree. The only way to win a war is to play. I think she means maybe play both sides. I mean, but you think about things like when we were just looking at this, and who was it? It was John Kerry and Al Gore, who was running against who? George W. Right? Wasn't that it? And yeah. I mean, they're all related. I mean, we didn't know that, because they were Democrats and Republicans. Wait a second. John Kerry, Kerry was a Democrat, and Al Gore was definitely a Democrat. Oh, yeah, and George Bush was a Republican. So, I mean, yeah, basically, anybody who won those elections, and it just so happens that George W. did, but, I mean, hey, it would have still been in the family, no matter what. So you still have, if you're talking about collective consciousness of a family, bloodline.
Yeah, that's crazy. That shouldn't even be allowed.
Yeah, it shouldn't. Hey, I mean, you can't work. In most facilities or jobs, there's a thing called nepotism. And you cannot work there if a family member works there, or not the same department or whatever. There's always rules. But apparently, if you want to be president, doesn't matter if you're related or not, So I agree, playing both sides. Sorry, Sachi just jumped down and up. But yeah, playing both sides, they were going to win. It's like, who cared about that election? Because whoever was going to win was going to follow the global elites rules, whether that's the Bilderbergs or the Illuminati or whatever conspiracy you want to jump into. So there you go.
This is a bit of a side tangent, but I'm infinitely annoyed at the steadfast separation, just the contention between the Democrat, Republican, conservative, liberal, as if it matters at all. which party has done the good thing? And was it neither? You know what I mean? People will literally like cut people out of their lives for holding different political beliefs based only not even in like, you know, nuanced beliefs, but just like red or blue, literally colors. And it's so irritating to me because I don't think it actually, like even before this whole thing, I don't think it matters really much at all anyway.
I mean, no, it is about the powers that be. And okay, so Samantha meant to pay both sides, furnish money with weaponry. Okay, yeah. But either if it's pay or play, you know, or pay to play, which is a thing, apparently. But yeah, I think that is why, and I'm not, you know, here's the thing. I am a rebellious thinker my whole life. And even though I voted for Trump, basically because I didn't want Hillary, it was just like, you know, okay, well, here's my choice. I think he was a good president, but even so, and I'm sorry to all the diehard Trumpers, I don't know, okay? Here's my thought. And I've said this before. Anybody with that much money and influence, how are they not going to be involved with some of these elite? You know? So I have to wonder because my mind works this way. And remember, I challenge every thought. And the people who are saying, oh, Trump is not, you know, part of the cabal. He's not part of all these other people. And so therefore, you know, he's fighting against the grain. And I hope that's true. I really do hope that's true. But then the other part of me is like, well, what if he's not? What if he has very secret ties that we don't know? I mean, you know, are we all going the same direction regardless? I don't know.
Possibly. I think the thing about the idea of Trump being in office that I appreciate, or that I like, the thing that I admire, just the idea of it, is that if there were going to be an instance of, you know, something breaking apart because of the president, it would probably be because of Trump. Like if, you know, like I just think that of all the presidents that I've seen or that I know about, he is the most volatile and like the most likely to cause internal chaos and all that.
Yes,
and,
I will agree.
For that reason almost alone is what would make me want to vote for him. By the way, I heard a smart person say that you don't get torn on who the figure is that you're voting for. Vote for the presidential cabinet, and that'll make your choices easier.
Yes, so absolutely, 100%.
Think about that, which is crazy. It's great. I have literally never, ever heard an argument made about the presidential cabinet. It's always just the person who got the seat. And
well, they talk about it all the time now with Biden, you know, because it's pretty evident that Biden isn't running the show, you know.
Well,
yeah. Bless it.
Yeah, I mean,
bless its little heart.
Man, I was watching a history piece the other day, and it said, and these were the drone strikes that were ordered by President Biden, and I was like, no. So who ordered the drone strikes? No, like, you know, I heard him speak during one of the debates, and I've been burying my head in the sand about him in general because it's unsettling. But
Kamala Harris is even more unsettling to me.
Yeah,
that's a whole nother topic.
Yeah,
I'm not a very political guy. I'd love to hear opinions and stuff about it all, but I don't know.
I'm
if you guys want to eventually wrap politics into the podcast thing too, you know, it's fine with me. I just like talking about things that are interesting. You know, I don't really care
what we talk about. Just keep it interesting.
Let me ask the chat, because you are the diehard people, the diehard thinkers in here. A lot of people come in and out, and and that's fine. Some people listen for a few minutes. That's fine. Whatever, whatever makes you happy. But y'all are the diehards. What topics, like what direction? You know, I was all true crime, and what I found out, let me just tell you, what I found out is most of the people who are creators in true crime are criminals. Yeah. So there you go. And I am not.
That's how they get the content. They do the crime and then make a video about it. That's actually, there was a serial killer who literally did that, by the way. The way he would do it is I think he would strangle women with their bra, and then he got caught. And then when he was in prison, he would write these crazy stories and waxings and all this stuff. He would just write a lot. And he got such a crazy fan base that it was just like a Twitter movement. They're like, let him out, let him out, let him out. And so they let him out, and he moved across the country, and he took up a position as a news reporter. And while he was there, he started to murder more people, doing with the same strangle and whatever. And no one put it together. And for 7 years, I think it was, with 13 or so different murders, this man would kill somebody, and then his producer or whoever would call him and be like, hey, can you cover this story? And every time he would go out there, he'd look at the cameraman. He's like, I've been here before. And then he'd report on the murder that he caused. And no one could put two and two together that, he was the guy. Even it was the same motive and everything. Crazy story. But no, that was a literal thing that happened for way too long before someone was like, hey, wait a minute, they're all getting killed in the way that this killer killed people back when he killed people. This is suspicious, and that was as far as conspiracy theories used to go, which I think that's very adorable.
We should do a whole show on that. I don't even know who you're referring to.
I forget his name. I'll have to find it.
That is so crazy. That is really, literally crazy. Yeah, throw us some ideas here. Lara says, and I'll answer part of this for the podcast.
These are my surrogate children. No.
How did y'all meet? What is your origin story? For those who have watched me and the Bungler on a bunch of lives now over the last couple of months, you will know, it's already out there, the Bungler is my son. I will let Colton disclose whatever he wants to.
Well, I'm also her son. Surprise.
How I was going to come up with a cool origin story, we found you in the janitor's closet at a public school, and you had been raised by mops your whole life, and we took you into society and all that. But yeah, we're all related, but it's not it's not like.
And Jamboree, when she joins us, that is my daughter. So there you go.
All the beans. Although
all the beans.
But this is the only
I'm probably
time.
gonna.
But we're so different. We're really, really different.
Yeah.
I say this might be the last time we ever tell you guys. So
yeah, that's actually. I was gonna make a public plea that be the last time this information. And so, because I think what we're gonna try to hope to do is I'm gonna start hosting some of these things on my channel and all this. And I would like it if it's just no one ever knew. And so, now and I would hope that.
Okay, but now we're going to have to come up with a story because that question will inevitably
and
come
someone
up
in
again.
10 years
and we're
will
just
do a
going to
deep
make
dive.
it up. Yeah.
And someone will do a deep dive and they'll find Silky Southern Tea and they'll be like, whoa, look at this live. They said, and they were talking about all this and they were going to take over the world and they did it. Wow. That's how I look at 10 years from now. But I guess we'll see, Mr. Beast 2.0 kind of thing. But anyway.
Yeah. So, there you go. But yeah, so you know what? We need to have an off-camera discussion and just, we have to
come up with a cool Batman origin story.
Yeah.
And you would be Alfred, and I think Colton would be the Batmobile. Or the utility belt or something.
I don't want to be Alfred. I want to be Batman.
Oh, I'll be Alfred then, but I don't know, with a mustache or something. We'll figure it out.
Alfred. I'll be Catwoman. What about that? I pretty much am now anyway. But, or maybe the Bungler is. I don't know. Okay. What were you going to say, Colton? I know. But please, y'all, let us know. What do you think we should talk about? give us an idea. Somebody said current events. I mean, I love crime, but I love talking about all kind of stuff.
Yeah, so Pam Frenchman said Alfred was a quiet man, and I was like, that's I need to practice. I try to play the role. No, but so as far as topics, man, honestly, like I think what would be great is to do current events, conspiracy theories to a degree, especially like topical current events. I'd like to just. My vision, I think, is to just get like a nice taste on like how a bit of news hits everybody. What they think about things. Like one of the things I was thinking about us talking about today was the whole Olympic boxing dispute. I don't have her name pulled up. Armane. I don't even know how to pronounce it, but you know who I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I think there's a whole fun discussion to be had about that. And so, that, conspiracy theories, metaphysics, the spiritual, just all of it. I myself am a Christian person, but I don't like to talk about things with that framing because, it's really hard to prove the Bible being like, well, the Bible said, and that whole thing. So I really like to try to join the two worlds, and I think it would be really interesting because that's just something I don't see a lot of is people, talking about the things they believe and applying it to the life they're currently living. For some reason, I don't know why that's such a difficult thing to do, but I don't see people doing it at all. So
yeah,
that's the thing we talking about today is balancing faith and reason and modern culture.
Yeah, we had Bungler had suggested naming the podcast Between Faith and Reason. I don't know.
That was going to be the name of the title for this evening. Yeah.
Oh. Okay.
No.
Y'all got any podcast suggestion names? I mean,
I'll just use.
We're open. And if you're on the replay crew, put it in the comments.
I wonder how much both of the guys would be open to conspiracy theories. I know I am somewhat, but if they have some substance, like some of the mythical stuff is just like out of my realm of thinking.
Like cryptids and stuff like that?
Like all the
Wendigo and...
I don't even know what that is, but...
Skinwalkers and stuff,
Yeah, that's just like, is Zuckerberg a lizard man? I don't know.
Hey, you know what? You know what I will say about David Icke? When I started watching his videos like years and years and years ago, the first thing I thought is this is ridiculous. And then I started, I don't know. I still don't know 100%. I've seen some really weird stuff, online, but I thought, here is this man putting his whole reputation and going around and speaking about this. I'm like, he has to believe this. Like, he really has to believe it to go around and say in public that there are lizard people. I mean, and reptilians. And I mean, I've heard so many other people say it now. I don't know if it's true or not. I mean, I'm pretty sure I've met people that were cold-blooded as reptilians, but is it a thing? I don't know. But, clearly, he had a lot of confidence. You got to give him props. A lot of confidence to tell the world that there's reptilians. And that's just my thought.
I mean, yeah. I mean, that's definitely true. I think that's maybe one reason why Christianity ended up being so popular is because it's just people were confident about it,
Mm-hmm.
It's like, I don't know. Some conspiratory things are like, wacky things that I love to toy around the idea with may not fit well, like the whole pyramids thing. Yeah, I don't know. I would love to be able to talk about it, but I don't know. I don't know if because to some people religion is like the same as the Wendigo or Skinwalker. They're like, yeah, okay, yeah. Someone steals your skin and mimics your voice, and there's a sky god out there somewhere tdo I bet. What do you know what I mean?
The Wendigo goes back though to very, very hundreds of years to Native Americans and people. I've heard testimony. I mean, you don't know if people are telling the truth, but, people are giving very detailed accounts of seeing these skinwalkers. So I don't know. I was just listening to, did y'all know that apparently there are a lot of things about the Appalachian Mountains that I did not know. I've been watching TikTok and,
foremost authority on the spiritual.
Yeah, but no, these are Appalachian people talking, and apparently the Wendigo is a huge thing. Kind of like Bigfoot, and you know how I feel about that. I mean, you can say he doesn't exist. I'm just saying, when you look at one, all you can say is, "Huh, well, I guess he does exist." I don't know about Wendigos, but yeah. Let's see. Somebody said something a while ago, and I can't find it now. Are we open to puns? Sure. We're open to anything. Title. Puns are sometimes really punny.
I'll probably just come up with something simple and silly. Or maybe not even silly. There's so many like long-winded titles for names for podcasts, and the problem that I have with that is that if someone is driving down the road at 60 miles an hour trying to type in the name of your podcast with their one free hand, you don't want it to be like 17 characters long. So
yeah.
True. So I mean, I don't know. There's as I'm sure you can imagine, I'm a big fan of Wendigoon. He's a very cool guy in my eyes. And he and this feller named Meat Canyon started a podcast together called Creepcast, and they just talk about scary stories and all that. And I really like that. Short and sweet, it's to the point. So I'll probably pick something like that. But
I'll show you a really good one later. It's called Disgraceland.
Oh yeah, that
Disgraceland?
podcast. Yeah, it's a very good pod. I mean, I haven't heard it, but the idea, Colton was telling me earlier.
Yeah, it's a podcast about musicians who get away with murder or other bad things. But every episode is a different musician and a story about them, and it'll kind of sometimes veer off into wherever that leads. But yeah, it's kind of
That's an interesting. I've got too many thoughts going on in my head. I can't get one out at a time. Someone said, "How about The Veil?" That sounds like British television, like soap opera. Something about the Queen not being real. Like if someone made a like a soap opera about this idea that all of royalty was related and that it was like a secret that they weren't actually divinely chosen or whatever. That's what I would call that show. I would call it The Veil, and the queen would be like super oppressive to her children, and she'd have one rebellious child who'd go out and try to talk to strangers, kind of like Princess Jasmine in the Aladdin.
I like that name.
I mean,
it's but whatever.
It's different. We'll figure it out.
All right. I'm gonna end this, and y'all, if y'all two want to talk, we can talk after this. I don't want to confuse anybody, but I will, because I'm working on the intro, and that's all I've got. I don't have an exit, so when I exit, it's going to say starting soon, but it's not. It's ending.
What will be starting soon is the beginning of the rest of your evening, so look forward to that. But no, this was really fun. I really appreciate all you guys coming around too. I love, I say it every time, but I love you guys' ideas and stories that you've heard. Hiawatha seems to know a lot of things that I don't know. And
so does Samantha. Samantha is a treasure trove.
Yeah.
And Laura.
Oh, and Pam. Like, look, there's so many good people. The ones that hang out. Yeah. Everybody has such good things. Lara has brought up a lot of good things tonight too. So yeah, I'll announce it here when we figure out what we're doing, because we're kind of just getting our feet wet doing this on my channel. I'm still, I don't know what I'm going to do in my channel. I don't feel like anybody wants to hear me talk about true crime.
Talk about fake crime. The president was assassinated today.
Sorry.
Gotcha. But like, what if? Am I right? Nah, just kidding. Unless.
No, I don't know. But
just
anyway,
all clickbait titles.
Yeah, no, that's not me. All right, thank y'all so much for hanging out, and yeah, anybody who's listening again on the replay, throw your comments down here. I want to hear what you got to say, suggestions, comments, whatever. And thank y'all too, and I will see y'all later. In the meantime. Whatever you do, don't stay silky. Bye, y'all.